Chapter 226. Outside the entrance of the mine, there was a circle of resting miners. They were all gathered here to watch the show. When Jiang Wang brought people over, they moved aside. This was Jiang Wang's third meeting with Shizichu. This time, there were fewer girls by his side. No matter how unrestrained a person was, he wouldn't bring women to a mine. It wasn't like it was a good place to go sightseeing. However, after noticing the servant behind him who didn't have an Adam's apple, Jiang Wang realized that he was still a bit naive. Did this guy learn the nourishment harvesting technique in East King Valley? Ignoring Jiang Wang's messy thoughts, Shizichu came up and said, "Last time, I specifically told you that I'm not an idiot." He shook his head and said, "I didn't think that other people didn't think so." Jiang Wang looked at the 5 people kneeling in front of him. These 5 people were all dressed luxuriously. It seemed like they all had some status. At this moment, their hands were tied behind their backs. They were kneeling on the ground silently with ashen faces. Who are these people? The 5 clans in Jia City are probably dissatisfied with our Shi clan's governance of Jia City. They actually bribed one of our Shi clan stewards to secretly participate and empty this mine. They wanted to use this to cause conflict between the Zhenggenjia and our Lian clan. They wanted to use the Zhenggenjia as a knife to cut off our Lian clan's head. After you came here representing the Zhenggenjia, they also bribed an assassin to kill you. They wanted to intensify the conflict in one fell swoop. Fortunately, Brother Zhang's strength is outstanding. Shizichu said slowly, "The cultivator who stole from the Hu clan's mine was stuffed into the Hu clan's mine through the hands of my Shi clan's trader. Although with Brother Zhang's intelligence, you'll be able to dig this out sooner or later. However, since I've returned to Jia City as the host, I can't always let guests from afar waste their time and energy. The leaders of these 5 clans are all here. Brother Jiang, you can verify it first or deal with it directly. It's up to you." "Young Master Shi is too polite. I should be the one doing the honors as a host. After all, this was the property of the Zhenggenjia. Here, young Master Shi is the guest from afar." Jiang Wang replied in a neutral tone, "Why don't we find a place to sit and chat?" "That won't be necessary. I've been here many times when I was young, so I'm very familiar with this place." As soon as Shizichu arrived, he placed himself in the position of the master. When Jiang Wang emphasized sovereignty to him, he began to emphasize history. From their previous contact, Jiang Wang could tell that this was a person who was used to taking the initiative, so he didn't find it strange. Instead, he asked, "Then, what about the manager of the Shi family?" "I've already taken care of it," Shizichu said lightly. "Since it's a member of the Shi family, there's no need for Zhenggenjia to worry about it." He had worked so hard to tie them up and bring them to the mine because he didn't want to have any conflicts with the Zhenggenjia. However, when it came to his own sovereignty, he firmly guarded a line. Jiang Wang didn't deny it. Even though it's a member of the Shi family, this matter involves the Zhenggenjia. Even though the Zhenggenjia's loss this time was caused by these people's conspiracy, it has nothing to do with the Shi family. At most, the Shi family will be held responsible for negligence. However, to show our sincerity, the Shi family is willing to compensate the Zhenggenjia with 10% of the loss. This amount was very generous and sincere. An industry like mineral veins was a long-term business. It required time to reclaim them. For example, this celestial stone mine was estimated to take several decades to complete. With the Shi family's compensation, the Zhenggenjia would be able to obtain a large amount of resources immediately. No one would be able to find fault with this. This amount of resources might not be much for the Zhenggenjia, but for Cheng Gengsheng, it was a sizable amount. Cheng Gengsheng was developing at a crazy speed, and he was in desperate need of resources. Jiang Wang nodded. "Very well. I'll stay. If there's nothing else, young Master Shi, please leave." Shizichu looked deeply at Jiang Wang. "I believe that Brother Jiang will be able to make an accurate judgment." With that, he strode away. When he came, he had escorted the leaders of the 5 families and herded them like cattle. When he left, he only brought the servant with him. His footsteps were light, as if he was treading water. To be able to remain independent in Shi, the East King Valley, was definitely not simple. From this Shizichu, It could be seen that he was on a completely different level from Gu Heng from the Greenwood Immortal School. At this time, Su Xiuxing, Zhang Hai, and Xiang Qian were all present. Of the transcendent cultivators in the Hu family's mind, only Zhu Biqiong was still in the courtyard. Jiang Wang said to Xiang Qian, "Interrogate these 5 people and see if there's any discrepancy between what Shi Zichu said." Since Shi Zichu had sent them over, it meant that they were telling the truth. They weren't afraid of being interrogated at all. However, this process couldn't be omitted. At the same time, he had to find something for Xiang Qian to do and guide him. He was short on manpower, so even if it was a dispirited uncle with no fighting spirit, he could only pinch his nose and give it a try. Xiang Qian had no reason to refuse his superior. With drooping eyes, he walked half-dead to the first person on the left. Is what Shi Zichu said true? The leader of the small family was also stunned. He was prepared to be tortured, but he didn't expect the other party to ask so casually. Yes. Xiang Qian moved to the second person. Is what Shi Zichu said true? Yes, yes, yes. Then the third, Jiang Wang, didn't say anything and silently waited for him to finish. After questioning the 5 people, Xiang Qian probably felt that he was being too perfunctory, so he asked again, "You're not lying to me, right?" After receiving a positive answer, he seemed to have some confidence. He looked at Jiang Wang and said, "Shi Zichu is telling the truth." Su Xiuxing's eyelids twitched. It was so obvious that he was being perfunctory. Did this pulse-wandering uncle really have nothing left to live for? After experiencing the heavenly retribution, earthly annihilation pill, Jiang Wang's level of terror in his heart had reached the peak. Although he didn't have much sympathy, he couldn't help but silently mourn for this strange uncle. Zhang Hai was silent, but his flickering eyes showed his nervousness. Everyone present was waiting for Jiang Wang's response. This was power and influence. Zheng Genjia borrowed power, and Jiang Wang's own management. In the world of transcendence, power was power, and power was power. To everyone's surprise, Jiang Wang didn't do anything to Xiang Qian. Looking at Xiang Qian's innocent dead fish eyes, he just sighed. "You shouldn't be called Xiang Qian. You should be called Xiang Qian." Xiang Qian sighed again. Xiang Qian is also tired. "You should be called Xiang Qian. Lying down is the most relaxing. Wherever you fall, you can sleep there." Okay. Go back to sleep." Jiang Wang was too lazy to sigh and compare whose breath was longer. He turned to Su Xiuxing. "I'll leave it to you. You should be good at this kind of work. Give me a complete set of information later." This Xiang Qian just didn't want to work for him. He wasn't even targeting him. He just didn't want to work for him. Jiang Wang wouldn't be so angry over this. At most, he would resign at the end of the month. As an assassin, Su Xiuxing didn't lack methods. In the end, the information he handed over was very detailed and verified Shi Zichu's words. Jia City's Shi family was the dominant family. There was no room for the other families to survive. These small families had long been resentful, but they didn't dare speak up. Zheng Genjia's development of a mind here was an opportunity for them. These families worked together to frame the Shi family, using the mine as bait. In the entire incident, Hu Xiaoming probably only played the role of pushing the boat along. After all, the Hu family was one of the smaller families in Jia City. They lived under the pressure of the Shi family, so they were happy to see the Shi family in trouble. As soon as Shi Zichu returned to the city, he immediately discovered this matter and quickly struck back with lightning speed. He killed the traitors on the spot and directly captured all the leaders of the clans, handing them over to Jiang Wang, who represented the Zhongshuan clan, to deal with. This plot was very logical. No matter how you looked at it, it was logical. Compared to the simple plot of Hu Xiaoming framing the Shi family, it was much more logical, and the evidence was solid. Logically speaking, with such a story delivered to him, there should be no doubt. But this was Jiang Wang's biggest question. Only his story could be so reasonable and intricate. Real life was never perfect. Chapter 227. The road connecting Hu's mine and Xingyang town was shabby and dilapidated. Because the mine was going to be abandoned, Xingyang town was naturally unwilling to invest too much in it. Shizichu walked slowly with a maid in disguise, laughing softly and leisurely. At the end of the road, a person stood alone in the middle of the road. Shizichu didn't seem surprised. Hu Xiaoming, although you're not in the mine, you still know the situation inside like the back of your hand. Don't talk nonsense. After waiting here for a long time, Hu Xiaoming, who was already impatient, said, "What is your purpose? I want to ask you, what is your purpose?" Shizichu asked, "Hiring someone to assassinate the Zhenggenjia's envoy. You really can think of something like that? How can this kind of thing be blamed on the Shi family? Do you think the Zhenggenjia will believe it? You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. Hiring someone to assassinate the Zhenggenjia's envoy, isn't it something that the 5 families did together?" "Oh." Shizichu shook his head and laughed. "That's true." Hu Xiaoming suppressed his impatience. "So what do you want to do?" No one knew the truth better than him. Hiring someone to assassinate Jiang Wang was indeed his idea. After contact, Jiang Wang refused to immediately close the mine. His firm attitude made him uneasy. Later, he even slapped the face of the Chongxian people that Hu Yu invited. Because of this, Hu Xiaoming realized that no matter what he said, it would backfire. Jiang Wang might have noticed something and insisted on not leaving Hu's mine. When one plan failed, another came up. Old Li was definitely a trustworthy person. He was his confidant in Jia City and was one of the spies against the Shi family. This was the right time to make a move. World Tower, this unworthy assassin organization, was an organization that he carefully selected. The fact that their headquarters was far away in Songfeng City was enough to enter his vision. Whether World Tower could kill Jiang Wang or not was not important. It would be good if they could kill him. The Zhenggenjia was far away in Qi City. It would take some time to send someone to investigate. What he needed was time, the empty time in the mine after Jiang Wang's death. Since he couldn't kill Jiang Wang, it was the same to let him leave. Old Li, the one who hired the killer, had already been transferred out of the country. After being assassinated, no matter which way Jiang Wang started, the result would not change. If Jiang Wang went to Songfeng City to fight with World Tower, regardless of the outcome, Hu Xiaoming's goal would be achieved in the time it would take for him to return. If he were to track down Old Man Li, it would be even more interesting. Old Li would try his best to escape, increasing the difficulty of his pursuit. When he finally captured Old Man Li, he would realize that Old Man Li was a member of the Shi family and was working for the Shi family. This plan could be said to be perfect. As the one who came up with it, Hu Xiaoming was very pleased with himself. But the only thing he didn't expect was that even though Jiang Wang captured the assassin on the spot and interrogated him for information, he didn't go anywhere. He just stayed in the mine and didn't leave. No matter which direction Jiang Wang went, he would be led by the nose. But Jiang Wang stood still and didn't leave. The string he was leading became a decoration. At this time, Shizichu stood out to suppress the matter and let the heads of the small families take the blame. This was something he didn't expect. It also made him uneasy. "What do you want to do?" Hu Xiaoming repeated. Shizichu didn't play riddles with him and said indifferently, "Whatever you want to do, I want to do." Even though he had a premonition when he learned that Shizichu had suddenly returned to Jia City, Hu Xiaoming still couldn't help but pale. "You knew. Whether it was killing the miner or the transcendent cultivator guarding the mine, it was all to cover up the secret. He thought that he had done it airtight, but he didn't expect that he would still be exposed. Jia City is the Shi family's Jia City." Shizichu looked at him calmly. "Here, nothing can be hidden from me. But Qingyang Town's surname is Hu. As for what Qingyang Town's surname is, we might as well wait until the Zhenggenjia people leave and then discuss it." Shizichu changed the topic. "2 sides fighting is better than 3 sides fighting. What do you say?" Hu Xiaoming was a person after all. He quickly thought through the pros and cons. Since the matter couldn't be undone, he could only choose the lesser of 2 evils. He asked directly, "Jiang Wang won't believe whatever you say. He'll definitely interrogate them again. Are you sure those people are reliable? The lives of their entire clan are in my hands. They know very well what to say. Moreover, in their hearts, this is the truth. So no matter how they interrogate them, there won't be a problem." Hu Xiaoming's expression changed. He knew very well what this meant. Memory tampering. This wasn't something a soaring dragon cultivator could do. If he was only facing Shizuchu himself, he could rely on his trump card and have a certain amount of assurance. But if the other side could use this level of power, then everything he did would be useless. Driving away the Junginjio wouldn't have any meaning. You don't need to be nervous. In order to avoid further incidents, Shizuchu explained, I used dream returning incense. My master only gave me half of it. It's already burned out. He took out a stick of incense that had already burned out. There was only a faint residue on it, and it couldn't possibly have any effect. You could take it back and examine it. Hu Xiaoming took the incense. The mysterious aura hadn't completely dissipated. It was indeed dream returning incense. His heart relaxed slightly, but he couldn't let his guard down. Shizuchu continued, You also know how precious this thing is. In order to fill the hole you poked, I had no choice but to use it. Since I've paid such a price, I must be satisfied with the rewards. Hu Xiaoming snorted coldly. The Hu clan could have relied on this mine to operate for another 30 years. The price I paid wasn't any less than you. It's precisely because I saw you make such a heavy bet that I'm willing to gamble with you. Young Master Hu. Shizuchu laughed. He hugged the maid who was dressed as a man and slowly walked away. There was one thing he didn't say. That was, sending the heads of the small clans to their deaths wasn't just to fill the hole in Hu Xiaoming's pocket. There were other ways to fill the hole. There was no need to use a treasure like dream returning incense. The Shi clan had controlled Jia City for many years. They could easily suppress these small clans. The only reason they didn't do anything to them was to appease the Yang government. They didn't want to create a name for themselves. They didn't have a valid reason to do so. But if the Junginjio were to kill these people, then it would be a different story. These clans wanted to die, so they couldn't blame it on the Shi clan. He wasn't worried about Hu Xiaoming causing any more trouble. As long as he had a bit of hope, a gambler who had already invested so much wouldn't leave just like that. The more he invested, the harder it was for him to let go. He and Hu Xiaoming both knew that making the Junginjio leave was their common goal. If a colossus like the Zhongshuan family squeezed in, everyone would have to go hungry. Chapter 228. Manager whose real name was Hu Laojian. When he was young, he was called Xiao General. When he was old, he was called Laojian. He was indeed Hu Xiaoming's uncle, but they weren't close. Unlike the Hu father and son, who spoke to Qi's official language, he couldn't change his accent. No wonder he didn't seem like an upper-class person. The upper class of Yang country spoke to Qi's official language. Sometimes, it became a symbol of status. He had mixed feelings about Jiangwang. At first, he felt that this cultivator was different from others. He respected him, so he felt that he was a good person. Even if Ge Heng threatened him, he wouldn't harm him. Later, Jiangwang revealed his identity and allowed the mine to continue operating. He even let him manage it. Now, he was grateful. Now, Jiangwang and Hu Xiaoming's father and son were about to fall out. He didn't know which side to stand on. At this time, he stood silently on the side and watched Jiangwang and Su Xiuxing talk. Sir, how should we deal with those people? Su Xiuxing quickly got into his role. He was very sensible. He was naturally asking about the leaders of those small families. In his opinion, of course, they should be killed. But Jiangwang was the boss now, so the decision had to be made by Jiangwang. Manager Hu, what do you think? Jiangwang asked. Manager Hu was stunned for a moment. He said respectfully, I don't have any ideas. It's up to you. Previously, he asked Manager Hu to call him, and because Jiangwang didn't care about his status. Now that he was in control, rules and decorum had to be established. But Jiangwang didn't want him to take sides. Such an ordinary little old man didn't need to be involved in the disputes of the supernatural world. When Jiangwang first introduced himself to the mine under the name of Duguan, it was in this room that caretaker who had recruited him. At that time, the repaired hole had been repaired again. Now, it was not easy to see it. Some of the holes have been repaired. No matter how carefully they were repaired, there are no traces left. It's also different from before. Jiangwang sighed and stood up. I'll deal with it myself. Back then, the Hu mine had built 6 small courtyards for transcendent cultivators. Two of the courtyard were used to scam Junginjia of their Tao essence stones. Now, one room was occupied by Su Xiuxing, while the other room was occupied by the 5 people sent by Shizichu. When they saw Jiang Wang walk in, they were all terrified. Being sent here by Shizichu, they had already foreseen their own endings. However, the entire clan was in Shizichu's hands, so they didn't dare to speak carelessly. Under Su Xiuxing's interrogation, they could only tell the truth in their hearts. Hiring assassins to assassinate the Junginjia envoy and framing the Shi family was a bold idea, no matter how one thought about it. However, due to the influence of the dream recall incense in their hearts, this was indeed the decision they had made. Even if he had 10 lives, it wouldn't be enough. Their only wish now was for Shizichu to keep his promise and not kill their families. Also, he hoped that Jiang Wang would be more decisive and not torture them. "I'm not interested in your lives," Jiang Wang said as soon as he stepped into the courtyard. The 5 people kneeling on the ground raised their heads. "I know you hired assassins to assassinate me, and I know you wanted to frame the Shi family and cause conflict between the Junginjia and the Shi family. I know all of this, but I plan to forgive you." Jiang Wang smiled warmly. "After all, you didn't cause any real harm to me, right?" Yes. Sir, you're so magnanimous. You're so kind." The 5 people were ecstatic. They ignored the pain on their bodies and began to flatter Jiang Wang. If it weren't for the fact that they were tied up tightly, they would have kissed Jiang Wang's shoes. Only Su Xiuxing's heart skipped a beat when she heard the word forgive. However, Jiang Wang changed the topic. "How can I forgive you? I don't mind it personally, but your actions have challenged the dignity of the Junginjia. If I let you go just like that, I'm afraid people will think that the Junginjia is a pushover." The 5 people looked at each other. Su Xiuxing bit the bullet and said, "Sir, you're so kind. If I were them, I'd be willing to compensate you with my life." The leaders of the 5 small clans suddenly understood something. The smartest one among them said, "Compensation. We must compensate you. Whatever you want. We'll go bankrupt." He started to cry. "As long as you don't kill me and my family, I'll give you anything." The moment he said that, the crowd started to cry. They were all scared. Those who had never faced death before couldn't imagine that kind of fear. Stop. Jiang Wang had to stop them. He tried to be as gentle as possible. "I won't even kill you, so why would I kill your family? There's no need for you to go bankrupt. I'm not a greedy person. How about this? 3 is a lucky number. 30%. I only want 30% of your family's property to appease the Junginjia. How about that?" There was no need to hesitate. "Yes, absolutely. Sir, no problem. Not a single knife coin less." The 5 people nodded like they were pounding garlic. "As for me," Jiang Wang said slowly, "do you have any unique secret techniques? It doesn't need to be very strong. It just needs to be unique. Personally, I like to collect some unique secret techniques. They can make me feel better." "Yes, I'll have someone send it to you immediately. We don't have it in our family, but I know where to find it. I'll definitely get it for you within 3 days." Jiang Wang nodded with satisfaction. He felt more familiar with it. "Xiuxing, let them go. Fold the money into Tao origin stones and send it along with the secret techniques later." Jiang Wang smiled at them. "I trust you. We won't disappoint you. Good people have good karma, sir." He threw all the flattery and determination to the back of his mind. He left everything here to Su Xiuxing. Since he had a subordinate, it would be a waste if he didn't use him. Jiang Wang turned and left. He didn't expect these small families to have any powerful secret techniques. He only wanted those secret techniques to be rare and unique. If they were offered to the Tao development stage, they could produce more techniques that could be used to unlock the seals. Of course, he didn't take the initiative to help the Shi family eliminate their competitors. There was no need to say such a goal. He believed that Shi Zichu would be able to see and understand his warning. The rest was just a choice. When he returned to the courtyard, he called Xiao Xiao. Jiang Wang didn't avoid Zhu Biqiang, who was beside him. He asked directly, "Do you have any relatives you can go to?" Xiao Xiao immediately knelt on the ground. She was about to cry. "Master," You want to chase me away? Jiang Wang casually pulled her up and said in a gentle voice, "That's not the case. It's just that this place might be very dangerous. It's not safe for you to stay here." "Master, I don't want to leave. I'm not afraid of danger. Please don't chase me away." Xiao Xiao sobbed. It wasn't until she met Jiang Wang that she was able to live a slightly more normal life. She was like a drowning person desperately grasping at straws. She couldn't let go. If she doesn't want to leave, then don't let her go. Zhu Biqiang couldn't bear to see her like this. Jiang Wang rolled his eyes at her. "If she doesn't leave, then you'll stay and protect her if there's any danger." "I'll protect her," Zhu Biqiang retorted. "All right, it's a deal." Zhu Biqiang. She suddenly felt like she had been tricked. At this moment, Jiang Wang said, "Do you still want to exchange your Shin Pearl? I can exchange my binding tiger with you. However, you have to promise me that you won't tell anyone about it." Of course, the binding tiger was precious, but it wasn't the only one. Exchanging it for the Shun Pearl could instantly increase one's combat strength. It was a good deal. "Of course," Zhu Biqiang said crisply. She hurriedly took out the Shun Pearl and handed it to Jiang Wang. "Here." She was afraid that Jiang Wang would regret it. For Zhu Biqiang, the Shun Pearl was also a treasure. However, she could still find a way to get a new one from the Fishing Ocean Tower. However, the binding tiger was a rare Taoist technique. She had personally experienced it before. It was definitely a wonderful combat technique. Jiang Wang handed the copy he had made a long time ago to Zhu Biqiang, completing this win-win exchange. With the help of the Shun Pearl, he was looking forward to seeing the power of this Taoist technique. Chapter 229. Zhu Biqiang hugged the copy of the tiger binding Taoist technique and rushed back to her room to study it. Xiao Xiao stayed where she was, as if she had not recovered from the trauma of almost being driven away. Jiang Wang sighed. "I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse for you to stay here." "Of course it's a blessing," Xiao Xiao said anxiously. Perhaps she felt that she had overstepped her boundaries, so her voice subconsciously lowered. "Master, you saved me and avenged Xiao Chui. I don't know how many lifetimes of good fortune I've accumulated to meet you. How could it be a curse? Stay by Miss Zhu's side during this time. Don't be too far away from her." "Master," Xiao Xiao said, "can I learn martial arts?" Meeting Jiang Wang's gaze, she bit her lower lip. "You said it's dangerous. I think I can help you." Jiang Wang suddenly thought of Figure, the honest man buried forever in Maplewood City. The man who worked hard without complaint, called him sir, and cultivated to protect the peace of a place. The man who cooked for him and in an every day. "I can't teach you." Jiang Wang turned and walked out. "I'm not a good teacher." "Master, there's one more thing," Xiao Xiao shouted behind him. Jiang Wang stopped. Xiao Xiao looked at Jiang Wang's back and asked hesitantly, "In the future, can I take the surname Dugu?" With tears in her eyes, she did not cry out loud. "My family doesn't want me anymore. I don't want them either." Jiang Wang was silent for a moment. He understood what she was thinking. "It's up to you." Behind him, Xiao Xiao smiled through her tears. Jiang Wang walked out of the room. Before he stepped out the door, he said, "If you want to learn something to defend yourself, let Miss Zhu teach you." The Zhenggenjia clan occupied a vast area. Their houses stretched out continuously, almost half the size of a smaller county. Of course, among so many people, only a few had the surname Chongxian. Most of them were Zhenggenjia soldiers, guards, and servants. At this moment, in Chongshuan's Xian family, an old man with a ruddy complexion was weeping endlessly. Snot and tears streamed down his face, and his voice was mournful. "Young Master Xian, you must uphold justice for this old servant." This person was none other than the Zhenggenjia member of the Chongxian clan who was distributing cultivation resources in Jia City of the Yang Kingdom. He had been a servant of Zhong Xian Xian's mansion for many years. In his early years, Zhong Xian Xian's grandfather had bestowed him with the surname Zhong Xian. Now that he was old, Zhong Xian Xian's grandfather had arranged an easy position for him to abuse his power. Chongxian Xian frowned. Who would be so blind in the Yang Kingdom? No matter how weak a country was, it was still very sensitive to its own territory. The Zhenggenjia's business in the Yang Kingdom was not well received at first. However, after the Zhongshuan family slightly raised their fist, everything calmed down. Until now, everything had been peaceful. It's someone called Jiang Wang. The old man cried. He's just a guest with a different surname, but he dared to hit me. How dare he? That's enough. How dare he? This matter. Sob, sob, sob. This dog is servant. He doesn't even know who he's working for. Smack. The old man was crying his heart out when Chongxian Hexen slapped him across the face, stunning him. I said that's enough. The old man did not dare to cover his face, but he felt wronged and confused, not knowing what had happened. Young Master Hexen. He had served 3 generations of Chongxian Xian's family and was respected by everyone. Otherwise, he would not have made such a scene in front of Chongxian Xian. This merciless slap made him uncomfortable and confused. I was hit by him too. I want you to uphold justice for me. Can't you? Chongxian Xian glared at him fiercely and roared. Can't you uphold justice for me? The old man was speechless. It was only now that he realized what kind of tough nut he had kicked. Now and she, who doesn't know that Jiang Wang is Brother Sheng's most trusted person? You're the only one who's blind and deaf to create such a mess. After suppressing Jiang Wuyong, Cheng Gengsheng's reputation rose to another level. His cooperation in Handan was also very successful. Now, no one doubted his ability to compete with Yung Gunzuan. Chongxian Ixen pointed at the old servant and did not hit him again. Go back to the warehouse and get something, then go to Brother Sheng's residence and ask for forgiveness. Of course, he won't meet you, but you have to convey his message and show your sincerity. Understand? Understand. I understand. Cheng Gengsheng's residence. After returning from the trip to Handan, Cheng Gengsheng had stayed in the residence for a few days and did not go anywhere else. The time for rapid expansion had passed. He was now trying his best to digest everything he had gained, whether it was power or influence. He was like a giant beast hibernating quietly. When his stomach rumbled with hunger again, it would be time for him to go out and fight. Chongxian Xian's servant coming to ask for forgiveness did not even enter his ears, so he would not express any opinions about it. At this time, he was sunk into a huge, custom-made chair, looking down at the black shadow in front of him. This was the shadow guard he had set up independently with the support of Chongxian Chuyang. It belonged to him alone, collecting all the information for him and dealing with things that were inconvenient to speak of. The skeleton of the organization and the instructors were mostly old soldiers who had fought under Chongxian Chuyang. From going to Anyao City to now, this level of support meant that Chongxian Chuyang had completely stood on Cheng Gengsheng's worship. He had placed a heavy bet on him. It was no longer like before, when it was more like the love of an elder to a junior. Is the source of this news reliable? Cheng Gengsheng asked. The Black Shadow reported. This subordinate personally investigated 3 of the places and found similar situations. This is not a small matter. I have to be completely sure. You have to investigate this thoroughly, Cheng Gengsheng said, then added, this matter is very dangerous. You don't have to go personally. Yes. The Black Shadow silently retreated. The fully armored 14 silently stood in the corner, as if he was an eternally motionless statue. In a restaurant somewhere in Jia City, a fat man was eating heartily. Gulyulu, gulyulu. This person was stuffing himself with food, eating with great relish. The empty bowls in front of him were already stacked high into 3 piles, and the dishes on the table were quickly scattered. Where are the dishes? Bring them up. As he ate and drank, he took the time to shout, like a reincarnated hungry ghost. The waiter in the distance muttered in a small voice. He jogged over, a professional smile already hanging on his face. Guest, you are already the 7th seat. What nonsense. No, this guest, the waiter said awkwardly. Our restaurant's ingredients have all been eaten by you. We can't make one more seat. The fat man picked up the plate in front of him, poured it into his mouth, and drank the last of the soup. He smacked his lips, and the oil slid on his fat lips. Burp. Because of his fat neck, it wasn't convenient to turn his head, so he simply turned half his body and looked at the waiter, his eyes revealing a dangerous light. But I'm not full yet. Guess the experienced old shopkeeper saw that something was wrong and hurriedly called over, "Immediately send someone out to buy the ingredients. Immediately go out and buy them." But when he walked halfway, he unconsciously stopped, because he saw the light in the fat man's eyes. The old shopkeeper had lived for most of his life, and he remembered this gaze. That was the light that often appeared in the eyes of starving beasts. The fat man made a strange sound and said slowly, "But I'm very hungry right now." Chapter 230. Jia City's Mayor's Residence. The mayor of Jia City, the chairman of the Shi family, Munan, was sitting at the head of the table. His hair was white and his aura was dignified. One could vaguely see the elegance of his youth between his eyebrows. He must have been a handsome man in the past. He was rubbing a booklet in his hand. On it was written, Jiang Wang was born in Fengxi Town, Qinghe County, Fenglin City, Fengxi Town, and studied at Fenglin City's Taoist Academy. He has a sister who lives in the Cloud Nation's Lingxiao Pavilion. Note, Fenglin City was destroyed in the chaos of the White Bone sect in the 12th month of the year 3917 in the Taoist calendar. Until now, it has been trapped between the netherworld and the modern world. Shi Zichu, who was dressed in a brocade robe, stood below him and spoke with assurance. He already knows the cause and effect of the celestial bluestone mine. With my compensation and his own harvest, he should be able to recoup most of the losses of the Zhongshuan family. This way, he won't have any reason to stay in the mine. We can clean up Zheng Genji's influence and completely control this region. It's just right for the future. At this point, he changed the topic. As for Hu Xiaoming, he won't be able to escape from my hands. It's been like this since young. Even if he joins the sea fishing tower now, he won't be an exception. Whatever he wants will definitely belong to me in the end. What if? Shi Manan rubbed his hands and said slowly, Jiang Wang doesn't leave? Why won't he leave? Sometimes overconfidence becomes conceit. While you are fooling around with women, the heads of the 5 families have already returned to Jia City safely. Shi Munan gave his son a stern look. Shi Zichu thought for a while and said, I still underestimated Jiang Wang, but it's fine. He left those people alive to express his dissatisfaction with me or to extort money at the same time. After all, it's not a big deal and won't affect the big picture. I'll just raise the compensation amount a little. A few worldly possessions aren't much of a price. Shi Manan secretly nodded. This child was indeed smart. Combined with the information he had received earlier, he had guessed Jiang Wang's actions pretty well. However, he couldn't help but be too conceited and overlook some things because of this. You still don't understand? Shi Munan shook his head. He won't leave the Hu clan's mine. Why? I really can't think of any reason for him to waste time here when Cheng Gung Sheng and Yungan Zuan are competing fiercely. Is it possible that he has already seen through your and Hu Xiaoming's intentions? If you can guess Hu Xiaoming's intentions, Hu Xiaoming can also discover your suspicions and immediately rush back to Qingyang Town. Don't tell me that Jiang Wang, as Cheng Gung Sheng's chief hanger-on, can't see through you. Shi Zichu shook his head confidently. Of all the intelligent people I have met, he is not one of them. Is the East King Valley's 4 ways of diagnosis. 4 ways. 4 ways, 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 4 ways. 4 ways, or is it because your skills are not good enough? As Shi Munan spoke, he tossed the paper in his hand to Shi Zichu. The old demon of the White Bone Path, the Deadeye Lu Yin, has been plotting for many years. The cunning Duru Hui of the Zhuang Kingdom came up with a plan of mutual discord and hid it from the world for many years. The confrontation between these 2 figures is backed by the White Bone God at the bottom of the Yellow Spring and the entire Zhuang Kingdom. The fall of Maplewood City has long been a foregone conclusion. This Jiang Wang was able to survive that kind of disaster. How dare you look down on him? He was one of victors in the Tian Fu secret realm. The other victors who came out with him were Cheng Gung Sheng, Li Longchuan, and Wang Yiwu. In Nanyao City, he suppressed the Qi's 11th prince, Jiang Wuyong. Lin Ke, who made a famous weapon, almost broke off relations with his family because of him. Cheng Gung Sheng did not hesitate to confront Jiang Wuyong because of him. Xi Munin looked at Shi Zichu with some disappointment. Zichu, let's not talk about the first part. You know about the latter two things. How can you look down on the heroes of the world after just a few years in the East King Valley? Shi Zichu lowered his head. Father, I know my mistake. He quickly raised his head again. How did you find out about his background? Although there were only a few lines of words in the intelligence report, the power behind it was extremely terrifying. What kind of power would be able to find out about a person's background in the Zhuang kingdom from Qi? At least, the Shi family could not do it. Xi Munin was satisfied with his son's astuteness, but he would never praise his son. He only said, Zheng Genjia. Shi Zichu nodded. It seems that Cheng Gung Sheng really values this Jiang Wang. Otherwise, Yungenzuin would not have passed this information to us. In this case, I'm afraid we can't chase Jiang Wang away, let alone kill him. It's easy to be seen as taking sides. We can't be involved in the whirlpool of Zheng Genjia. We're far away in the Yang Kingdom. There's no benefit to winning. If we lose, the family will be in trouble. You don't want the thing that you and Hu Xiaomeng are eyeing. Xi Munin asked deliberately. Compared to the Shi family's hundreds of years of existence, the other things are not worth mentioning. That's the logic. However, Xi Munin said, we can't kill Jiang Wang, but we must chase him away. Shi Zichu smiled bitterly. You said it yourself. Jiang Wang has made up his mind not to leave the Human. Since we can't kill him, how can we chase him away? No. He immediately reacted. I've already given up on that thing. Why must we chase him away? Shi Zichu looked at Xi Munin. Father, are you hiding something from me? Xi Munin avoided the latter question and only said, we can't kill him, but that doesn't mean others can't. At this moment, a person who looked like an advisor walked in quickly and whispered a few words into Xi Munin's ear. Shi Zichu recognized that this was Advisor Liu, who was trusted by his father. Although he did not have a real position, he was only below Xi Munin in the entire city lord's residence. He had doubts in his heart, but he would not ask his father for an answer in front of this person. After saying a few words, Advisor Liu retreated to the side. Xi Munin remained calm and looked at his son. There's an incident at a restaurant in the south of the city. Go and handle it. Remember what I told you. Shi Zichu glanced at Advisor Liu and only said, yes. When they arrived at the restaurant, the place had already been sealed off by the city guards. Shi Zichu noticed that the city guards outside the restaurant had ugly expressions on their faces, as if they had been frightened by something. Vomit could be seen on the ground not far away. There was probably something disgusting and terrifying in the restaurant. Shi Zichu briefly observed the outside and walked into the sealed area through the passage that was specially made for him. Stepping into the restaurant, even though he had already expected it, his footsteps still paused for a moment. He saw the entire restaurant was in a mess. The tables and chairs were all over the place, and there were broken cups and plates scattered in a pool of dark red blood. In the middle of the hall, there was a huge iron pot with a raging fire under it. On top of the iron pot, naked human corpses hung upside down like a forest. They were all incomplete. Some had more than half of their bodies cut off. Some had white bones. Through the white fog, one could vaguely see half of a human palm floating in the iron pot. Chapter 231. The Blessed Land Challenge has begun. The owner of the 31st Blessed Land, Lu Shi, has issued a challenge. Do you accept the challenge? Today was the 15th of April, which was also the Blessed Land Challenge Day that was opened once a month. If Jiang Wang could not accept the challenge before the end of the day, he would be considered to have forfeited and would be demoted from the Blessed Land. Accept the challenge. In the Lank Mountain Blessed Land, which was ranked 30th Jiang Wang wielded his sword into the Milky Way. The sword discourse arena combined, and the arena was formed. What appeared in front of Jiang Wang was a monk with a blurred face. The kasai on his body was embroidered with flowing light. The monk put his palms together and bowed. "Stupid thing, come and hit me." His posture was respectful, but his words were blunt. Jiang Wang was also taken aback by this baffling fellow. Fortunately, his hands were not slow. 2 flame flowers had already flown out. "Monks, don't talk nonsense." Jiang Wang leaped forward. The thorny crown on his head flashed and instantly activated the wood energy in the monk's body. Taoist technique, binding tiger. However, he only saw the monk stretch on the spot, as if he was not affected by binding tiger at all. He was still scolding, "Shut up, little bastard. You have so much hair. What do you know about being a monk?" He poked the flame flowers with his fingers and scattered them. Jiang Wang's long sword arrived. The sword was surrounded by purple energy, surging and boiling. Clang! 2 fingers shining with golden light caught the sword. The monk continued to scold. "You are too weak. Do you dare to hold back your strength in front of me?" He pulled back his 2 fingers and pulled Jiang Wang and his sword in front of him. Then he punched out. Flowers bloomed, and the flowers competed with each other. Taoist technique, flower C. It temporarily created a battlefield to create illusions for the enemy to gain a geographical advantage. The fist suddenly shone with golden light. The flowers withered and turned into nothingness. The entire sea of flowers formed by Taoist techniques was shattered by a single punch. The fist landed on Jiang Wang's chest without any effect, but it only pushed him forward slightly. "Amipa." The monk chanted the name of Buddha softly, his tone sincere and warm. Then he said, "Weakling, I'll give you another chance. Use everything you have." The Blessed Land Challenge was different from the matching battle, because he had inherited the blessed land left behind by Zhuo Guanglie. The opponents he would encounter were all much higher than his current realm. Jiang Wang subconsciously wanted to use his 3 unique sword moves, but he suddenly heard the voice of Zhu Biqiang from the Fishing Sea Pavilion. "Taoist Jiang, there's a situation. In the great illusionary realm, one would not completely lose the ability to sense one's body in the real world. It's closer to the state you're in when you're fully focused on something." All of his attention was focused on that matter, so he paid less attention to the outside world. However, if there was any movement, he would still be able to catch it in time. With a thought, Jiang Wang directly admitted defeat and withdrew from the battle. His cultivation realm was far inferior to Zhang Xian's, so even if he used the 3 sword styles, he would still lose. At this moment, something was happening in the outside world. Although the great illusionary land was good, oneself outside the illusionary land was the foundation. It was a small boat that crossed the sea of suffering in the human world. Hey, why are you running, you stinking bastard? Don't you dare to bare your fangs at your grandpa Buddha?" All of a sudden, the monk stomped his feet a few times in the empty arena to express his annoyance and dissatisfaction. Successfully entered the blessed land of Lank Mountain and became the master of Lank Mountain. Even the prompt of successfully completing the Blessed Land Challenge did not improve his mood. Jiang Wang threw the prompt of descending into Lexi Blessed Land to the back of his mind. He pushed open the door and looked at the nervous Zhu Biqiang outside. "What's wrong?" Zhu Biqiang said nervously. "I have a fortune ball with me. It's a treasure my sister left me. It's usually sealed and can only be used once a month. My sister told me to use it in the middle of the month. In terms of luck, it's usually at this time of the month. There are more changes and it can help me avoid danger. I used it just now because I had nothing to do." She rambled on for a long time before taking out a small crystal ball the size of a fist. "Look." She opened her palm and let Jiang Wang observe it. "Red is fortune and black is misfortune." On the crystal ball, half of its surface was still translucent. On the other half, a wisp of black spread rapidly and spread out. There was such a treasure that could detect fortune and misfortune. Zhu Biqiang's sister, who was lost in the Heavenly Palace secret realm, was really protective of her. "So much misfortune. What does it mean?" Jiang Wang asked. "It means there's a great danger approaching. Zhu Biqiang thought for a moment and suddenly turned to run. I'd better run first. Jiang Wang suddenly turned his head and looked in the direction of the mine gate. He grabbed her and said, "Come back. Misfortune is imminent. We can't run away. Go and call Su Xiuxing, Zhang Hai, and Xiang Qian over. I'll go to the mine gate and wait for you." You? Zhu Biqiang suddenly became bashful, and her small face blushed. "Why are you squeezing my hand? What time was it?" Her mind was in a mess. Jiang Wang shook off her hand and only said, "Go quickly." His figure was already far away. Zhu Biqiang no longer hesitated. As Jiang Wang left, she also felt that there was a chaotic and oppressive aura approaching from the direction of the mine gate. The few dogs raised in the mine all started to bark at the same time. Jia City, in the small courtyard that Jiang Wang had visited before. Shizichu was still calmly pouring wine. Hu Xiaoming sat across from him with an anxious expression. Jiang Wang seems to have made up his mind to wait until the ore vein is exhausted. "What do you plan to do?" "What can I plan to do?" Shizichu took a sip of wine with a ruminating expression. "There's no harm in waiting. If you wait any longer, you won't get anything." "What else? You'll kill him?" Hu Xiaoming gritted his teeth and said, "It's not impossible for us to join hands. When the time comes, no matter who gets the thing, they'll hide in their own sect." "What can Zheng Genjie do? Can they start a war over a retainer?" Shizichu clicked his tongue. "I'm getting more and more curious now. What's hidden in that celestial limestone or vein that makes you want to do this? You're even willing to give up everything the Hu family has in Qingyang town?" Hu Xiaoming instantly restrained his expression and appeared very alert. "No matter what it is. Since you placed a bet, you want to win, don't you? Are you going to watch the Zheng Genjie take it away?" "You're right. What do you plan to do?" "You gather the masters of the Shi family. We'll go straight to the mine and kill Jiang Wang. Remember, ask for the soaring dragon masters of the Shi family. It's best if the Castellan can do it himself. Jiang Wang is not an ordinary Ascension Realm cultivator. He defeated the Prince of the Qi, Jiang Wuyong. If he escapes, we're all done for. We'll get nothing. If all the masters of the Shi family come out, what do you have to compete with me? Could it be that you've found someone to rely on during this period?" Hu Xiaoming remained calm. "Let's take care of the Zheng Genjie first, then we'll use our own methods. Isn't that what we agreed on?" Even so, Shizichu pretended to think and looked at Hu Xiaoming. "Why are you in such a hurry? Let me guess. The thing you're waiting for is about to appear? Today? Tomorrow? The day after tomorrow?" There was only one official road leading out of the Hu family's mine that led directly to Qingyang town. It wasn't until they reached Qingyang town that there was a fork in the road that led to Jia City from Qingyang town. At this moment, there was a fat figure at the entrance of the mine. He followed the official road to the end. This person had appeared in a restaurant somewhere in Jia City and had also been to many places in the streets and alleys, but he had never revealed his true appearance. Only now did he wear a pig-bone mask on his face, because he was looking for an old friend. Naturally, he had to use an old face. Chapter 232. In a small courtyard in Jia City, Hu Xiaoming and Shi Zichu were still fighting openly and secretly. "Don't think about your messy thoughts anymore. No matter when that thing appears, as long as Jiang Wang is still in the mine, it has nothing to do with us. Isn't that right?" Hu Xiaoming said angrily. "You're really tight-lipped. It seems like you're very sure that I didn't get any specific information from my ears." Shizichu twirled his wine cup and said with a smile, "But you told me about your eyes." He seemed very confident, as if everything was under his control. Hu Xiaoming was very clear that his first ear referred to a spy, while the latter referred to observation. His face sank. "If you didn't have the sincerity to cooperate, then you didn't have to stop me and say those words. That was then, this is now. Whatever." Hu Xiaoming lost his patience and got up to leave. "In any case, even if I lose this time, you'll still be at the bottom. When I think about this, I feel that failure isn't that hard to accept." Shizichu laughed. "Yes, it's good to be more open-minded." "What do you mean?" "Nothing. I'm just asking you to stay for a drink. Just drink for 3 days, how about it?" As Shizichu said this, his hand suddenly shook and the wine splashed out, turning into needles that shot out. The whistling sound stopped as soon as it started. In an instant, it turned Hu Xiaoming in front of him into a hornet's nest. Shizichu, remember this. It was you who first destroyed the foundation of our cooperation. Hu Xiaoming calmed down and said coldly. Then, his body swayed for a moment before dispersing like smoke. Only then did Shizichu realize that the Hu Xiaoming who had been chatting with him was actually just an illusion created by an illusion. And he was very familiar with looking, smelling, asking, and feeling, but he couldn't see through it. Although his attack missed, he didn't lose his temper and kept some of his composure. He only paused for a moment before lightly clapping his hands. Fishing Ocean Tower's illusions are indeed unparalleled. Outside the gates of the Humain, Jiang Wang leaped and rushed over, just in time to see the fat figure wearing the pig bone mask. He instantly gripped his sword. How could he not recognize this type of mask? How could he not remember the white bone path that he often saw in his dreams? The pig-faced man glanced at his hand that was holding the sword and laughed a little breathlessly. You know me? What do you think? Jiang Wang asked. I heard that there's a person from the Zhuang kingdom here. That's why I came. A name suddenly flashed through Jiang Wang's mind. Shizichu. It wasn't that Hu Xiaoming wouldn't do such a thing. Instead, it was more likely that Shizichu would have gotten the information that he was from the Zhuang country. The pig-faced man continued. Many of my brothers and sisters have died recently. A few days ago, 4 of them had died at once. There was a guy with the surname Zhu. What was his name again? Zhu Weiwa? Ho, we were going to kill him. However, he later heard that he had comprehended something called the true fire of the sun. Even Kuei Shan couldn't kill him. Forget it. After talking for a long time, he suddenly asked Jiang Wang, Are you from Zhuang? Are you from the Dao Academy in Maplewood City of the Zhuang State? Zhu Weiwa. The white-skinned man in front of him seemed to be mentally unstable. Since he was willing to talk nonsense, Jiang Wang let him do as he pleased. As time passed, Su Xiuxing, Zhu Biqiong, Zhang Hai, Qian Xian, and all the transcendent beings in the entire Humain had gathered here. Jiang Wang looked at the fat pig-faced man and replied, I used to be. Ho. The pig-faced man didn't seem to care about the so-called transcendent beings that had gathered here. It was only after he got a confirmation from Jiang Wang that he stopped laughing. His laughter suddenly stopped. I suddenly feel very hungry. His figure was huge, even fatter than Cheng Gongsheng. However, he moved as fast as lightning. In an instant, he was in front of Jiang Wang. Like an uncivilized beast, he bit at his neck. Clang! He unsheathed his sword and placed it in the pig-faced man's mouth. The teeth collided with the sword, producing a crisp sound of metal clashing. Although the pig-faced man's brain seemed to be a little abnormal, he was definitely not slow in fighting. As he opened his mouth to bite Jiang Wang, he was also hugging with his hands. With his huge strength, he could instantly crush his opponent's body with a hug. However, Jiang Wang first blocked the pig-faced man's bite with his sword. Then, he turned a blind eye to the man's hugging and directly pressed his hands on the sword hilt. The 9-star rivers were all opened, and his Dao essence violently pushed the sword forward. At the most intense moment, the sword blade and the pig-faced man's teeth actually produced sparks. He had absolute confidence in Zhang Si. Although this sword hadn't been nurtured for too long and still lacked additional power, it was already extremely sharp. He wanted to see if his sword would cut off half of the pig-faced man's head first, or if the pig-faced man would crush his body first. Even if the other party was one of the 12 bone-faced men of the White Bone sect, and was at the peak of the soaring dragon realm. Jiang Wang wasn't afraid at all. With one move, life and death would be decided. Bang! The pig-faced man's abdomen exploded, and he retreated at a speed faster than when he came. Jiang Wang forced the pig-faced man back with his sword and immediately shouted, Zhang Hai and Qian, you have the responsibility to protect the mine. If you don't act now, I'll send you to the Dachi authorities. Su Xiuxing, Zhu Biqiong, help me kill this fatty, and I'll owe you a favor. He didn't gather everyone to attack earlier because he didn't have a life-and-death relationship with these people. If he couldn't show his strength to fight the pig-faced man head-on, these people would probably scatter. That was why he attacked with force. He wanted to create momentum and then cooperate with these helpers to create a snowball advantage. Since Jiang Wang said that no matter how unwilling Zhang Hai and Qianqian were, they had to come closer. However, Su Xiuxing's eyes lit up. "Can you detoxify me?" "Of course." As soon as Jiang Wang's voice fell, Su Xiuxing had already arrived with the wind. "Damn, fatty, your smile is too ugly." The pig-faced man waved his hand, and his hand quickly swelled with a mixture of flesh, blood, and meridians. He slapped Su Xiuxing's dagger. Su Xiuxing was blown back. Su Xiuxing rolled a few times before he lost his strength and squatted on the ground. This scene scared Zhang Hai and Qianqian, who were eager to fight. The pig-faced man attacked Jiang Wang, but his attack didn't succeed. Instead, his lips were injured by the sharpness of Sauvignon, and blood came out. He was attacked by Su Xiuxing again. But instead of being angry, he was a little happy. He completely ignored the others and just stared straight at Jiang Wang, murmuring morbidly, "I've been wondering who you are. Will you surprise me? We should be old friends. In Maplewood City, have I eaten your family and friends? How angry must you be? How much must you hate me?" This kind of hatred is delicious food. I think I can smell its sweetness. Every piece of your flesh must be soaked in your hatred for me, right? Come on. I can't wait. Chapter 233. Su Xiuxing glanced at Jiang Wang worriedly. He wasn't worried about his safety, but about his antidote. Jiang Wang Ren's purple aura swirled around him, and his sword was like a shooting star. He was indeed angry. It was all in the sword. Clang! A boning knife collided with the tip of Jiang Wang's sword. The pig-faced man blocked Jiang Wang's attack with an agility that didn't match his body size. The boning knife was only 3 inches long. It was pinched in his fat hand like an embroidery needle, but it was like a butterfly flying through flowers, full of killing intent. The sharp knife pecked the sword 3 times, but the sword wasn't damaged at all. Cold light swirled and twisted along the sword. Just as he was about to mince his opponent into pieces, the pig-faced man's vision suddenly blurred. He saw a fallen leaf floating past. The sharp knife was still moving forward, but he couldn't see the figure anymore. The Taoist technique of the sea fishing tower, one-leaf vision. It was Zhu Biqiang. To be honest, she didn't know why she attacked. There were masters in the sea fishing tower who doted on her. Jiang Wang's promise of a favor didn't seem to be much. The ball of fortune and misfortune was full of misfortune. Killing the pig-faced man of the White Bones sect to eliminate misfortune was a suitable reason. She was so nervous about the battle that she didn't notice that the other half of the ball of fortune and misfortune was gradually swimming out. One side was black while the other side was red. Fortune and misfortune came together. All of this took a long time to describe, but it happened in the blink of an eye. The pig-faced man's vision was slightly blocked. Jiang Wang turned with his sword and attacked 7 times. Each attack was full of the peak-killing power of the East-Rising Purple Qi Sword Classic. His left hand flicked his fingers. Flame flower. Flame flower. Flame flower. The pig-faced man had just removed the illusion when he saw the shadows of the sword. Then flowers bloomed in front of his eyes. The Taoist technique Flower Sea was spread out. With the help of the Shun Pearl, the Flower Sea in reality was much stronger than in the great illusionary land. Although the pig-faced man was at the peak of the soaring dragon realm, his strength was far from the talkative monk that Jiang Wang met in the blessed land. Therefore, he couldn't see the real situation, but he didn't need to see it. A low growl came from his throat, and his body suddenly swelled up. It had more than doubled in size. His veins bulged like little snakes, and his flesh bulged like a ferocious beast. He didn't look like a normal person at all. 7 consecutive swords slashed down, flesh and blood splattering everywhere. Flames flew over, charred flesh and blackened skin. Su Xiaoxing descended from the distance like a rainbow, piercing through the sun. The assassin's sure kill strike was wrapped in a whirlwind as it directly landed on the pig bone face's bulging neck. With one strike, he only managed to stab the shiny dagger into the pig-faced man's body. Under Jiang Wang's intentional control, the sea of flowers did not block other people's vision. Zhang Hai threw a dark red pill from afar, which exploded on the pig-bone-faced man's body. Even Qianjin drew out a long sword and controlled it to leave a bloody wound on the pig-faced man's body from afar. The attack was considered complete. This sword was crooked and out of shape. His lethality was also lacking. For a moment, all the attacks landed on the pig-faced man. Flesh and bones split open and blood spurted out. Because of a moment of carelessness, he was heavily injured by Jiang Wang. If these wounds were on an ordinary Xiuzhe, they would have died long ago. But he was still able to stand. His presence was soaring. Gurgle, 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 the sound of his stomach rumbled like thunder. It was so loud it was deafening. Qianjin and Zhang Hai were the first to collapse. Blood seeped out of their ears. They had to cover their ears and retreat. Pain, the pig-bone-faced man shouted. Pain. His body swelled again. He was 3 zhang tall and 3 zhang wide. The person was like a mountain of flesh and blood. 2 round eyes were embedded in the swollen pig-bone mask. Blood vessels spread in the whites of his eyes, making him look especially vicious and terrifying. The wounds on his body seemed many, but they were pitifully small compared to his body size. A white bone whistle was hanging around his neck. At this time, urgent sounds came from inside. The sound was pleasant to the ear, but panicked. Pig face, what are you doing? Stop. The envoy wants you. The voice suddenly stopped. The pig-bone-faced man pulled it off and crushed it. Something had happened when he had been cultivating the 12 godly manifestations of white bone. His cultivation was not affected. Instead, it was stronger than usual. The only thing was that sometimes he could not think straight. His temperament also became violent and irritable. When he went crazy, he did not recognize anyone. At this time, he was injured and blinded. He was already crazy and could not hear anyone's orders. Hungry, I'm hungry. He threw the crushed white bone whistle into his mouth and swallowed it. Then he used 2 fat fingers to pull out the small dagger on his neck and put it into his mouth. Crack! It was crushed in one bite. My dagger! Su Xiaoxing screamed. The heavens took pity on him. This was the most miserable cry he had ever made. It was almost as painful as the pig-bone-faced man's scream. At this time, the miners in the mine had long been gathered by manager Hu and the guarding martial artists. Hundreds of people hid in the corner of the mine. They were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. In the face of unimaginable danger, ordinary people had no way to protect themselves. It was fine if they could not see. But the pig-bone-faced man who had swelled twice was already taller than the mine gate. He was far away and directly exposed to their sight. Everyone's legs trembled as they panicked. Someone's teeth chattered. What kind of monster is this? Will we be eaten? I haven't married yet. The maids of each courtyard also hid with the miners. Xuanzi was also afraid. His black face was pale, but he held the wooden stick in his hand and stood in front of Xiao Xiao. And at this time, rumble, rumble. Suddenly, a loud rumbling sound came from the depths of the mine. One by one, the mine collapsed. It was as if the entire celestial blue stone mine had come alive and was moving and churning. It was also as if some underground giant beast was fighting, causing the earth to split open. Even in their panic, the people in the mine could not help but look over. If they hadn't hidden themselves early on, they would have been buried alive by now. Above the mine, a green light suddenly shone. It leaped high into the sky like a dragon and a pillar, rushing into the clouds. This was the sign of a treasure being born. On the official road from Jia City to Qingyang Town, Shi Zichu led a small group of elite city guards and was galloping. They saw the commotion from afar. Not good. It's at this time. We've been tricked by Hu Xiaoming. Shi Zichu instantly jumped up, leaving the soldiers behind. He stepped into the air and rushed towards the direction of the Hu's mine. And in the mine, a miner suddenly took off his felt hat and jumped up, heading straight for the mine. He shouted, "The Shi family has taken over this place. The army will arrive soon. No one is allowed to move. Violators will be killed, and their families will be implicated." It was the soaring dragon realm elder of the Shi family who had not made a move for a long time. Shizichu was scheming against Hu Xiaoming in Jia City. He had already hidden in the mine and was waiting for this moment to pick the fruit. But at the same time, he jumped into the air. Behind him, another miner in ordinary clothes silently floated up. When he got close, he suddenly exploded. Fallen leaves floated in front of his eyes. A small black awl pierced in his back. Then a roaring water dragon surged and swallowed him. Dao technique, one leaf vision. Consumption type, magic, tool, shackled essence, all Dao technique, water dragon wave. A series of moves, smooth as flowing water. The Shi family elder fell to the ground. Chapter 234. The murderous miner landed on the ground, but didn't stop. His body was like a wave, and people could only see the side of his excited face. His movements were as smooth as flowing water. Using a sneak attack and many other methods, he instantly killed the soaring dragon realm Shi family elder. It was Hu Xiaoming. The treasure that was about to appear was his goal for a long time. In his early years, he obtained a secret technique called the treasure light mantra. It was a technique that could detect treasures and use the light to determine how valuable they were. During one of his inspections of the mine, he discovered that there was a treasure hidden in the depths of the mine, but it wasn't complete and hadn't appeared yet. He had been waiting for such a long time. In his own territory, he didn't have to worry about waiting. But even though this place was called the Hu Mine, the real owner was the Zhonggenjia. When the treasure appeared, it would naturally belong to the Chongxian family. So before that happened, he had to make the Zhonggenjia leave. But if he made the Zhonggenjia give up on this place, Jia Cheng would definitely take it over. The treasure still wouldn't be in Hu Xiaoming's hands. So he strictly controlled the time and personally stole the ore so that the mine would dry up at the time he planned. It would be best if the treasure appeared before the Zhonggenjia gave up on the mine, and Jia Cheng didn't have time to take over. He would take advantage of the time difference to get the treasure. Half a year ago, someone broke into the mine. It was actually him, the one who stole the ore. He didn't expect to be discovered by the cultivator guarding the mine, Xia Hao, and could only kill him on the spot. After that, he covered up the truth and framed Xia Hao as a spy sent by the Shi family, and put the blame on the Shi family for the depletion of the mine. To deal with the possible blame from the Zhonggenjia, Ge Heng, Zhang Hai, and the others all believed him. So he kept his secret. Everything he did after that was for the same purpose. But he didn't expect the news to be leaked, and Shizichu found out. He also didn't expect that a small-scale celestial stone mine would attract the attention of the Zhonggenjia and send Jiang Wang, such a troublesome person to deal with, to no avail. As the matter dragged on, it became more and more troublesome. He decided to change his plan and use the situation to make a new one. Shizichu used him, and he used Shizichu too. The two had fought for so many years, and he understood Shizichu too well. Shizichu's SS, and Jiang Wang's to kill the Shi family's elders and take the treasure. Then he would escape back to the coastal islands. Shizichu's SS, and kill. SSS kill, Jiang him's kill. Kill. At the same time, they sent their clan's experts to infiltrate the Hu clan's mines to seize the treasures. What a perfect script. Little did they know that Hu Xiaoming had been hiding in the mine for a long time, right next to the Shi family elder in disguise. The one who went to Jia City to fight with him was just an illusion that was controlled from afar by a treasure. Outside the gate of the mining area, Jiang Wang naturally wouldn't miss the treasure light. He was observant and noticed that Hu Xiaoming had leaped into the air and killed a transcendent cultivator. He immediately shouted, "Su Xiuxing, Zhu Biqiong, you two go stop Hu Xiaoming. Leave this to me." The pig-faced man was enraged, but he had not lost his mind. His vision was filled with flowers, but his 5 senses were unaffected. When he heard the sound, he immediately turned his head and strode towards Jiang Wang in the sea of flowers. He was tall, and his strides were large. In just a few steps, he had already closed the distance between them. Taking advantage of his blindness, Jiang Wang purposely gathered several rattan snakes and intertwined them, using them as horse-tripping ropes. However, it was directly broken and sent flying by the huge pig-bone-faced monster. In such a state, the pig-bone-faced cultivator would be able to use the white-bone Dharma manifestation in his physical body. He would be extremely strong and would not feel any pain. Some of the flame flowers hidden between the illusory flowers were scattered by his palm, and some were directly eaten by him. Even if they were burned into a lump of flesh, it would be normal. One step was faster than 3 normal steps. In an instant, he was already close to Jiang Wang. Under the clear sun, a shadow covered the sea of flowers. In front of Jiang Wang, rattan snakes intertwined into a wall, and a huge flower on the wall opened its bloody mouth. The rattan snakes were grafting the flower of eclipse onto the wall. At the same time, the sea of flowers appeared. In the pig-bone-faced cultivator's vision, countless flowers of eclipse were swallowing with countless huge mouths. Crack! However, he accurately grabbed the only real flower, grabbed the upper and lower ends of the flower of eclipse's huge mouth, and gently tore it apart. With liquid splattered, the flower of eclipse collapsed, and the rattan snakes on the wall collapsed. However, Jiang Wang was no longer in front of him. Where was he? That hateful but cunning little bug, the hateful but delicious person from Zhuan. Roar! The pig-bone-faced cultivator let out a bestial roar. He suddenly opened his mouth. A huge mouth suddenly cracked open, and fangs protruded out. A fishy smell surged. This was a veritable bloody mouth. Compared to this, the big mouth of the flower of eclipse was like a small cherry mouth. He opened his huge mouth and sucked in a breath. The power of gluttony. A huge suction force erupted. Zhang Hai, who had already retreated far away, suddenly felt his body lighten, and he ran forward a few steps. He hurriedly hugged the pillar of the mine's gate and temporarily stabilized his body. What was even more terrifying was that the sea of flowers, which was supported by the Shun's pearls, shook slightly and shattered. This kind of suction force could even affect Dao techniques, and they were all sucked away. As for Jiang Wang, who was directly facing the power of gluttony, how much pressure was he under? Compared to the corner of the mine where everyone was gathered, the mine's gate was actually closer to the collapsing mine. As soon as Jiang Wang gave the order, Su Xiuxing and Zhu Biqiang jumped up and pounced. Of course, they were not loyal to Jiang Wang. Although Su Xiuxing's life was in the hands of others, he was thinking about the treasures. As for Zhu Biqiang, she hated Hu Xiaoming. At this moment, she was certain that Hu Xiaoming's character was vile. He must be the main culprit who caused the change in her sister's temperament and her death in the Heavenly Palace secret realm. In the direction of the mine, clop, 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 clop. Soft hoofbeats. A green goat that looked like it was carved out of jade seemed to have stepped out of the ground from the depths of the mine. When people saw it, they could not bear to let go and wanted to take it for themselves. In the distance, Xuanzi opened his eyes wide. A goat actually came out of the mine. That miner was telling the truth. He finally understood why Hu Xiaoming killed that night. So this was the secret that Hu Xiaoming wanted to hide. What he did not know was that what the miner saw that night was only a projection. This treasure had not fully matured yet. Since then, Hu Xiaoming had found excuses to close the nearby mines. This treasure was called the Heavenly Blue Cloud Goat, and it was the spirit of the Heavenly Blue Cloud Stone. 10,000 Heavenly Blue Cloud Stone mines might not produce a single stone spirit. It was an extremely precious treasure of the Wood Dao. Hu Xiaoming did not hesitate to give up the Hu clan's 30 years of development under the Zheng Genjia's protection. It was clear how precious this treasure was. The treasure that he yearned for day and night had finally appeared. At this moment, Hu Xiaoming sped up and used a water rope to entangle the Heavenly Blue Cloud Goat. A wind blade was caught in his hand as Su Xiuxing rushed over. He rushed to the front of the Heavenly Blue Cloud Goat first. Without the dagger, he used the wind blade to cut the water rope. He turned around to grab, the heavenly blue cloud goat. But suddenly his vision blurred. The heavenly blue cloud goat split into three. He could not see which one was the real one. He grabbed empty air. It was an illusion that Hu Xiaoming used at the last moment. What kind of son of a bitch assassin is this? Was World Tower such a lousy organization? Where is their credibility? The assassin that they spent a lot of money to hire not only did not kill the target, but was used by the target. Hu Xiaoming stepped on the waves and flew up, unable to restrain his anger. Public morals were degenerating day by day. Even assassins did not have any professional ethics. Chapter 235. Yes, World Tower is such a lousy organization. Go ahead and curse Yin Sheng. Su Xiaoxing grabbed with both hands and did not back down. I don't plan to go back anyway. His hands touched nothing but emptiness. What he grabbed were all illusions. The heaven-clear cloud goat disappeared before his eyes. At the same time, water chains whistled through the air and crisscrossed, instantly sealing Su Xiaoxing's position. He used 3 rapidly spinning wind blades to protect himself so that he would not be trapped immediately. The wind blades and water chains collided violently, causing the wind elemental energy and water elemental energy to collapse mercilessly. Hu Xiaoming used illusions to cover Su Xiaoxing's vision. In his own vision, the heaven-clear cloud goat was still lively and agile. He stepped on the torrent chains and moved forward at high speed. At the same time, he used one of the chains to lock the heaven-clear cloud goat. However, he suddenly became absent-minded. The heaven-clear cloud goat also disappeared before his eyes. It was also covered by illusions. Zhu Biqiang. Although Zhu Biqiang's figure was also covered by illusions like the heaven-clear cloud goat, Hu Xiaoming naturally knew who his opponent was. He was also from Fishing Ocean Tower, so he understood that illusions were not simple concealments. If he tried to catch the heaven-clear cloud goat from the position he remembered, he would definitely fail. This was because the location he thought was no longer the location he remembered. Although they were both in the heaven-reaching realm, he was superior to Zhu Biqiang in both strength and experience. If he was given some time, he would definitely be able to break through illusions of this level. However, what he lacked the most now was time. The torrent chains, a Dao technique that was close to an A-grade Dao technique, was one of his trump cards. However, if he focused on breaking through illusions, he might not be able to trap that assassin with his Dao technique alone. After Shi Zichu discovered that the Hu Xiaoming in Jia City was only an illusion, he would immediately rush over. Once the battle between Jiang Wang and the pig-bone-faced man outside the mine gate ended, no one would allow such a treasure to slip away from under their noses. All these factors could not be delayed time. Do you know why Zhu Suyao became depressed and irritable? Hu Xiaoming stood on the torrent chains and suddenly shouted, "After I plucked her primordialine, I got tired of her. You put on an act all day long and think that you're a saintess bodhisattva. Usually, you're dull and tasteless in bed. I just found another interesting one." And his face immediately changed. It can be seen that her extreme nature is her true nature. Gentleness is just a facade. She didn't change. She just returned to her original self. You should be thanking me. She's been burdened by you all this time. She must have had a hard time hiding it. The torrential chains flew back and forth. Hu Xiaoming split his attention to suppress Su Xiaoxing while observing his surroundings. His words became more and more cruel. She was obstructed by the heaven and earth gate, and it was also my doing. Who told her to say that she wanted to take revenge on me? He deserves to die in the heavenly palace secret realm. As soon as he said this, he grinned coldly. Stepping on the torrent chain, he jumped up and shot forward. Found you. While he was still in midair, waves were already surging beneath him. Huge waves soared into the sky, and there were also numerous water snakes swimming in the waves. It was Zhu Biqiang who finally couldn't maintain her calm state of mind. She couldn't maintain the perfection of her illusion and exposed her whereabouts. She hated it. Her dearest and most respected sister had been hurt and humiliated by the man her sister once loved. Seeing Hu Xiaoming rushing over, she simply gave up on her illusion and used all her strength. I'll kill you. At this moment, the speed at which she completed her Dao techniques was faster than any other time in the past. The same huge waves soared into the sky, the same water snakes roamed. The same Dao techniques were in a frenzy. Attack against attack, technique against technique. She gave up all defense and escape, and was determined to die together with Hu Xiaoming battle. Everything happened in an instant. Two similar Dao techniques unique to the fishing ocean tower collided head-on. Boom! The two people in the center of the battle were engulfed by the turbulent water elemental energy. Zhu Biqiang's figure flew backward. Amidst the splashing waves and dispersing water elemental energy, a wet hand suddenly broke out and aimed directly at Zhu Biqiang's delicate face, which was filled with hatred, pain, and anger. You've been a burden to your sister for long enough. Being weak is your biggest sin, Hu Xiaoming shouted coldly. 5 thin streams of water shot out from his 5 fingers like sharp needles. At this moment, everything seemed to have frozen. There was a soft hum of a sword. A sword, like a shooting star chasing after the moon and a rainbow piercing through the sun, suddenly fell. Jiang Wang held his sword and landed between Zhu Biqiang and Hu Xiaoming. His half-long hair was tied up simply, and only a few strands of hair at his temples gently floated down and stuck to the side of his face, which was becoming more and more angular. The long sword dripped with blood, and the 5 severed fingers suddenly fell to the ground. The thin streams of water lost their momentum and fell to the ground like small snakes that had suddenly died less than a finger away from Zhu Biqiang's face. At this moment, Hu Xiaoming finally let out an unbearable scream. Outside the mine, the pig-bone-faced man suddenly erupted with the power of gluttony. He had practiced the 12 divine bone manifestations mystic technique in a crooked manner, but it was still powerful. The huge swallowing force tore everything apart. The power of gluttony made him powerful, but it also made him crazy. He was like a crazy giant beast. Not only did he want to devour the opponent in front of him, but he also wanted to devour all the plants and stones in the entire mine. Jiang Wang looked straight at his opponent. Hate? How could he not hate? Anger? More than anger. You asked me how much I hate you, Jiang Wang said softly. The crown of thorns on his head flashed and disappeared. He pressed his hand on the hilt of his sword. The secret of the Hu's mind, which he had been waiting for a long time, was revealed. The azure cloud sheep had been born. Jiang Wang didn't need to hold back anymore. He was already a top-reaching Heaven State strongman in the mysterious territory of the Heaven State. He had even defeated the Prince of the Qi, Jiang Wuyong, in Nanyao City. Even Cheng Gung Sheng was amazed by his progress and felt ashamed of his inferiority. He had been cultivating and working hard every day, every night, every spare moment. His strength was traceable, and it was all happening bit by bit. In the crazy, tearing force of the power of gluttony, the doorpost was shaking and on the verge of collapse. Jiang Wang's clothes seemed to be about to leave his body, but he stood still. He was like a pine tree rooted on a high cliff. He was like a reef standing proudly on the tide. The wood chi surged and disturbed the 5 elements in the pig-bone-faced man's body. The crown of thorns binding tiger collapsed as soon as it was bound. It only made the pig-bone-faced man stop for an unnoticeable moment. Maybe it was half a breath, or less than half a breath. Jiang Wang had already floated up. He gave up all resistance and let the sucking force pull him away. He didn't resist, but sped up. In the blink of an eye, he was already near. When he was there, his sword was there. He made 3 sword moves in a row, longing for longing, love, hate, and dreams like the sun and the moon. The sun and the moon in the sky, but the hometown is forever distant. The first sword move, the sword of the sun, the moon, and the stars. What I heard, what I saw, what I experienced. Why did I come all the way here? The second sword move, the sword of mountains and rivers. The world I came from was like a sea of bitterness. People came and went. The sea of people was boundless. The third sword move, the sword of the boundless sea of people. Sword radiance, surging sword radiance, and brilliant sword radiance, dazzling and stunning sword radiance. All the sword radiance exploded and swept into the pig-bone-faced man's bloody mouth in an instant. It swept past the pig-bone-faced man. The sword radiance swept past, and the man disappeared. Jiang Wang pulled back his sword and turned around. He only left one sentence, as you can see. Chapter 236. Jiang Wang exploded with all his strength, using the crown of thorns to create an opening for Binding Tiger. He killed the pig-bone face of the white-bone path's 12 faces in 3 strikes. He turned around and sliced off Hu Xiaoming's 5 fingers. Zhu Biqiang's heart skipped a beat. She watched as the 5 sharp currents approached. Her own Dao essence was in chaos, and she was unable to dodge. Then, Jiang Wang descended from the sky and stood in front of Hu Xiaoming. This scene reminded her of her sister's delicate but powerful figure from many years ago. Hu Xiaoming only screamed once before stopping. He suppressed the pain with great willpower. He had already lost. He had lost completely. Not only had he lost the Hu clan's 30 years of business opportunity, but he had also lost the treasure that he had painstakingly planned for. He understood this clearly. If he hadn't retreated fast enough, he wouldn't have just lost his 5 knuckles, but his entire arm. Jiang Wang's sword seemed to have come from the heavens. Even if it came again, he was not confident that he could block it or dodge it. Damn it, wasn't that the white bone path's 12 faces? How could he die so quickly? He was sweating from the pain, and his heart was filled with anger. However, he did not say anything and directly used an illusion to hide his tracks. Jiang Wang took out the sea serpent pearl and threw it to Zhu Biqiang. See if he's still there. With the sea serpent pearl, Zhu Biqiang could not defeat Hu Xiaoming in illusion, but she had no problem detecting his tracks. After a moment of concentration, Zhu Biqiang gritted her teeth and shook her head. He escaped. Perhaps Hu Xiaoming was still waiting for an opportunity, but when Jiang Wang threw out the sea serpent pearl without hesitation, he knew that he had no chance. If he did not escape now, he might not be able to. Hu Xiaoming had already left, so the Dao technique he left behind naturally disappeared. The torrent chains collapsed, and the illusion disappeared. Su Xiaoxing leapt up and grabbed the heavenly clear cloud goat in the air. The heavenly clear cloud goat went from the size of half a person to the size of an infant's fist. It jumped back and forth in Su Xiaoxing's palm. Good stuff. Feeling the pure wood Dao aura from the heaven clear cloud goat, Su Xiaoxing felt his mind clear up. Even the feeling of being suppressed by Hu Xiaoming had disappeared without a trace. Such a treasure, but when he turned around, he saw Jiang Wang. Jiang Wang looked at him calmly. Su Xiaoxing looked at the 5 knuckles on the ground seriously. He then thought about the huge, beast-like, pig-bone-faced man outside the gate of the mine. Then, he thought about the legendary poison in his body that was a secret of the Deqi royal family. That terrifying heavenly punishment, he picked up the heavenly clear cloud goat with both hands and presented it in front of Jiang Wang. My lord, fortunately, I did not disappoint you. Jiang Wang naturally wouldn't be courteous and received the heavenly clear cloud goat. Immediately, he felt his entire body relax. Even the Azure Dragon chapter of the 4 Spirits Body Refinement, which had been perfected for a long time, seemed to have loosened up, as if it could be improved further. Of course, this was just an illusion. It was an illusion brought about by the pure wood Dao aura of the heavenly clear cloud goat. Jiang Wang held the heavenly clear cloud goat, but didn't immediately play with it. Instead, he turned his head and looked at Shi Zichu, who was flying in the air. Shi Zichu landed in the mine and looked around. He already knew the outcome. His gaze landed on the heavenly clear cloud goat that was playing around in Jiang Wang's palm. His eyes narrowed. He came from the East King Valley and needed such what Dao treasures the most. If he could get his hands on this treasure, it would save him at least 10 years of effort. But before he lured the pig-bone-faced man to the Hu family's mine, he had fought with him, although he didn't use his full strength. He also knew that the other party was not weak. Who dared to say that the white bone path's 12 bone faces was weak. Now, not even his bones were left. He had been fighting with Hu Xiaoming for many years. Although he had always suppressed Hu Xiaoming, he knew that guy's strength. Now, there was no trace of him. His own family elder was also a genuine soaring dragon realm cultivator, but he was already dead. How strong was this Jiang Wang? If he mobilized all of the Shi family's forces, would he be able to kill him here? Would he be able to keep this a secret? He was still weighing the pros and cons when Jiang Wang looked at him with a smile that wasn't a smile. The heavenly clear cloud goat was carelessly placed in his hand. Jiang Wang asked, "Young Master Shi, why are you here? Could it be?" He shook the heavenly clear cloud goat in his hand. "You also want to steal the Junginjia's treasure?" As he spoke, the hooves of the horses stomped on the ground. The elite squad of Jia City's city guards arrived. There were 23 of them. Each of them was sharp and fierce, waiting for Shi Zichu's orders. Jiang Wang's expression didn't change. He didn't even look at these people. He only looked at Shi Zichu, waiting for his answer. These few short breaths seemed very long. The others couldn't help but hold their breaths, waiting for a battle or a peace. On the other hand, Jiang Wang and Shi Zichu were calm. "Envoy, what are you saying?" Shi Zichu smiled bitterly. "I'm here to chase after the pig-bone face. This person comes from the white-bone path. He is cruel and evil and has committed a great crime in Jia City. I have a responsibility of guarding this land. Since it's like this, you can go back." Jiang Wang slowly said, "He has already died under my sword." "Ah, how satisfying." Shi Zichu bowed. "On behalf of Jia City, I thank the envoy." "Well said, well said." Jiang Wang waved his hand. "The government's reward for this person will be sent to the mine later." Even with Shi Zichu's shrewdness, his expression couldn't help but freeze. Of course. Finishing, he left with his elite subordinates. He was afraid that if he stayed any longer, he wouldn't be able to resist fighting for the heavenly clear cloud goat. After all, there were so many people in the Shi family. He didn't dare to gamble with their lives. "Master." Su Xiaoxing quietly moved closer, acting like a lackey. "The Shi family is the master of Jia City. Their background is hard to predict. Weren't you afraid that he would really turn on you? Smart people always think of other things. Since he didn't attack as soon as he arrived, he won't attack again." Jiang Wang casually explained. Suddenly, he took a step back and looked at Su Xiaoxing cautiously. "What do you want to do so close to me?" "That." Su Xiaoxing rubbed his hands together as if he was embarrassed. "The pig from the white bone path is also dead. You also have the heavenly clear cloud goat. The poison in my body, is it?" Jiang Wang was silent for a moment. Even if he had been in contact with Cheng Gongsheng for a long time and slowly cultivated his face, he still couldn't help but feel embarrassed. "I'm a man of my word. You can go now." "Yes, yes, yes. Master's words are worth 1,000 gold. Who doesn't know that? Who doesn't know that?" Su Xiaoxing humbly nodded and smiled flatteringly. "But the poison in my body? There is no poison in your body. Master, please don't joke with me. I'm a coward. I can't take it." Jiang Wang. He realized that he had fallen into a paradox. No medical cultivator would be able to detect a poison that was fabricated out of thin air because it didn't exist at all. However, on the other hand, no doctor could prove that it didn't exist, because the so-called non-existence probably meant that they couldn't detect it. "You're too smart. I can't hide anything from you." As Jiang Wang spoke, he forced out a ball of Tao energy and used the binding tiger method to wrap the mixed with energy. He gently patted Su Xiaoxing's shoulder and scattered it into his body. "I've already given you the antidote." Su Xiaoxing felt his body suddenly become sluggish and relaxed. He felt extremely carefree. He couldn't help but laugh. "Of course, I've been wandering the world for so many years." As he laughed, he suddenly stopped and jumped back a few steps. "The poison is gone. Why should I talk nonsense with you? How dare you torture me like this? Brat, just you wait." After saying those words, he ran away. In the blink of an eye, he was nowhere to be seen. Chapter 237. If not for Su Xiaoxing, perhaps Hu Xiaoming would have already taken the heaven-clear cloud sheep and escaped. Therefore, even though he was arrogant and spoke unreasonably, Jiang Wang did not intend to do anything to him. Of course, one of the reasons was that he had not opened the heaven and earth door and had mastered the fire escape technique. He might not be able to catch up with Su Xiuxing, who was an assassin. Jiang Wang held the heaven-clear cloud sheep and turned around. He saw Zhu Biqiong's red eyes. "You owe me a favor," Zhu Biqiong said directly. She was a girl who could not hide her emotions. It was rare for her to wait until Shi Zichu left. Jiang Wang certainly did not feel uncomfortable, nor would he deny it. If not for her help, Su Xiuxing alone would not have been able to stop Hu Xiaoming. "What do you want?" Jiang Wang asked. "Help me kill Hu Xiaoming." Zhu Biqiong gritted her teeth and said, "My sister was killed by him." Jiang Wang condensed with energy and tied the heaven-clear cloud sheep with green vines. Then he put it in his arms. "Duga Xiao." He called, "Xiao Xiao. Didn't you want to work for me? I'll leave the mine to you temporarily. You'll deal with the aftermath and calm the miners. Ask manager who to cooperate with you." He then said to Zhang Hai, "You'll deal with the transcendence. If you can't handle it, wait for me to come back." After saying these two sentences, he turned around with his sword in hand. The battle had just ended. It was time to sort out the gains. Digest them. Everything else should be put aside. But whether it was attacking the pig-faced man outside the mine or stopping Hu Xiaoming in front of the mine, Zhu Biqiong had paid a price. It could be said that she risked her life. Jiang Wang also promised her a favor. When she made a request, he had to do it without hesitation. "You're leaving now?" Zhu Biqiong said anxiously. "I'll go with you. You'll only affect the speed of killing. Just stay in a mine. The battle has just ended. It's inevitable that people will be unsettled. Zhang Hai may not be able to handle it alone. You'll be helping me by staying here." Jiang Wang glanced at Xiang Qian intentionally or unintentionally. He took the Mirage Pearl from Zhu Biqiong and continued, "I will bring Hu Xiaoming's head back to you." Under the pig, bone-faced man's power of gluttony, Zhang Hai had no power to resist at all. He could only hug whatever he saw and suffer bitterly. However, it was this dispirited and useless forward that seemed to have taken root under the violent tearing force. He usually hit it well, but in that kind of situation, he couldn't hide it anymore. Of course, it didn't escape Jiang Wang's eyes, which were always on the battlefield. However, Fang Chong was only hiding his strength and did not show any other intentions or schemes. Everyone had their own secrets. Jiang Wang was not someone who could not tolerate others having secrets. That glance was both a reminder and a warning. Running on the official road, it stirred up dust like a dragon. Jiang Wang used remembrance as he ran. After the battle, just now, Hu Xiaoming had left behind too many clues. Xiao Qiao lowered her head as if she was reminiscing. When this Taoist technique was developed to the extreme, it could directly trace the people or things in the memory without other clues. Currently, it was limited by the level of the Taoist platform and could not be deduced to a higher level. Xiao Qiao lowered her head in the direction of Qingyang town. It was the same direction as Jiang Wang's deduction. From Hu Xiaoming's point of view, Jiang Wang had already obtained the heavenly clear cloud goat and obtained the final harvest. There was no reason to pursue Hu Xiaoming. Moreover, Shi Zichu would soon arrive at the mine, and there would be a battle between the two. Whether it was returning to Qingyang town to recuperate or to pack up and prepare to move the family, it should be safe during this period. The dilapidated official road was soon traversed. Jiang Wang had been here once before, so he was familiar with the road and went straight to the Hu estate. There were several carriages parked outside the gate, and many servants were busily moving things in and out. If he offended both the Zhenggenjia and the Shi family, he would have to kowtow and beg for forgiveness. Otherwise, he would not be able to stay in the Yang kingdom, and Qi would have no way out. Looking at the Hu family's attitude, they should be preparing to move to the coastal islands. Jiang Wang did not speak much with these people and directly walked into the courtyard with his sword. "I'm here to find Hu Xiaoming. Life and death is my own decision." Ordinary people's reverence for supernatural cultivators had long been rooted. When they saw Jiang Wang coming menacingly, no one dared to resist. They all put down the things in their hands and rushed out as if they were fleeing. The courtyard was empty. There was only a slightly plump old man sitting on the steps in front of the hall. His eyes were lifeless, and he looked much older than the last time they saw him. He seemed to only realize when everyone had run away. He raised his head in a daze and looked at Jiang Wang, who was coming with murderous intent. However, he did not say a word and seemed to have lost his mind. "Where's Hu Xiaoming?" Jiang Wang asked him. "Jiang Wang, you took the heavenly clear cloud goat, and you also broke my finger. Even if I offended you, it should be enough." Hu Xiaoming's angry voice came from the room on the right. He walked out angrily and hurriedly bandaged his broken finger. "What else do you want?" These words seemed reasonable, but were actually laughable. There's no such thing as simply canceling out grudges and disputes. In this world, there is no such thing as you taking the initiative to pick a fight and then deciding the scope of the consequences. Jiang Wang did not waste time talking nonsense. He directly unsheathed his long sword and approached. A cold light flashed like lightning, and Hu Xiaoming's entire body was instantly shredded by the sword chi. Jiang Wang raised his sword and looked around. There was no flesh on the ground. It was just an illusion. Hu Xiaoming was hiding. Where was he hiding? Jiang Wang suddenly turned sideways. Hu Xiaoming appeared 10 steps to the right, where Hu Xiaoming had been standing. His face was red, as if he was furious. "Jiang Wang, you can't do everything, but you can't do everything. Do you really think the fishing sea tower is easy to bully?" Jiang Wang still did not speak. He swung his sword and broke the illusion again. This time, Hu Xiaoming appeared on the other side. This time, he changed his tone. "You've taken all the benefits. Why do you have to kill me? The heavenly Tao leaves a line, and the human Tao is good for reincarnation." Such lifelike illusions emerged one after another. It did not seem like something a reaching heaven realm cultivator could do. It was completely beyond the strength he had shown. Jiang Wang could not sense where Hu Xiaoming's real body was at all. Tracing to this courtyard was already the limit. If he could not trace a more specific location, it would not be effective in this situation. But in any case, since he had such a powerful illusion, he could just swagger away. But why did he still talk so much nonsense here? Was it because he could not bear to leave his father and family, or couldn't leave? Jiang Wang clenched his Sauvignon Blanc. Since he came alone to hunt down Hu Xiaoming and refused Zhu Biqiong to follow him, he naturally had his own confidence. Although his illusion ability was far inferior to that of the cultivators from the fishing sea tower. But illusions were not omnipotent Taoist techniques. They had a core and most direct weakness, and that was the person who cast the illusion. Jiang Wang raised his sword. His body was like a hurricane, and his sword moved back and forth like a silver snake. Sword chi surged wildly, and the sword rolled like tide. In 3 breaths, he had cut through every corner of this room. Chapter 238. Jiang Wang retracted his sword energy and returned to the courtyard. Dust and debris fell from the room he had slashed through, but he had not hit the real thing. Jiang. This time, Hu Xiaoming directly stuck himself in front of Jiang Wang. He was already extremely irritable and angry. "What do you want?" "I want to kill you," Jiang Wang said. "You can't kill me and you can't find me. Did you chase Shi Zichu away? Do you know how many soaring dragon realm experts there are in the Shi family? Do you think you can escape when they all move out and surround you and form a formation? Or do you think the reputation of the Junginjia can protect you? Isn't it more important to send the azure cloud goat back to the Junginjia or escape with it? I'll compensate you with 1,000 Tao origin stones. Is that enough?" In response, Jiang Wang's sword chi surged out once again. Another room was destroyed. Hu Xiaoming still had not shown himself. The houses collapsed one by one with a rumbling sound. It was as if the house was being demolished. The old and fat Hu Yu sat paralyzed in front of the stairs. His eyes gradually began to waver. "Why don't you leave? I'll slash you inch by inch. You'll show up." This time it was Jiang Wang who asked. It was not that he could not destroy the entire courtyard in one breath. but he had to consider the connection between his Tao origin energy and his aura. Regardless of whether he attacked or retracted his sword, he always maintained a high level of vigilance and reserved energy for multiple outbursts. Hu Xiaoming was not weak. He would not be careless. Don't think that you can threaten me just because that old bastard Hu Yu is here. If you want to kill him, kill him. I don't care. Hu Xiaoming's illusion stood in front of Jiang Wang and gnashed his teeth. Maybe you don't know, but I just killed his lover before you came. This shows that you care. Jiang Wang sighed his heart. But he could not put a sword to an old man's neck and force his son to show himself. He had his stupid way. He had his stupid way to choose. The violent sword Qi rolled back again, but Jiang Wang was not discouraged. The people outside the courtyard had been soaked clean. The carriages were only filled with luggage. The horse driving one of the carriages seemed to be frightened and pulled the carriage out of the street by itself. Hu Yu, who was paralyzed on the stairs, suddenly pointed at the carriage outside the courtyard. There's a small mirror in that carriage. His real body is hiding in the mirror. He shouted hoarsely, "Kill him! Kill him! Bastard! Pretend I never gave birth to him." The moment he said this, the carriage suddenly sped up. The horse that was driving the carriage madly turned and sprinted. It was about to run far away. Sword light, the sun, moon, sky, the moon, and the stars. Jiang Wang did not hold back at all. His first attack was the sword of sun, moon, and stars. It was like the sun, the moon, the moonlight, the starlight, everywhere. Seeing it, you bathed in it. When Jiang Wang made his move, the carriage exploded by itself. There was a small bronze mirror on the seat in the carriage. It was oval, delicate, and looked like a very ordinary dressing mirror. It looked like the kind of mirror that a young lady would bring out. However, a pair of hands rushed out of the bronze mirror. One of them was intact, while the other had 5 fingers broken and was simply bandaged. Hu Xiaoming's hands. Hu Xiaoming leaped out of the mirror. In order to save himself, he had to come out and fight. He stepped on the surging waves. Huge waves surged in front of him, and there were densely packed sea snakes swimming in the waves. One of the signature Taoist techniques of the fishing sea tower, snake tide swim. It had both a grandiose aura and a nimble change. Starlight, moonlight, and sunlight poured down in an instant. The sea snakes shattered. The waves parted. Changxi pierced through Hu Xiaoming's body and brought him back to the carriage. Then it crushed the entire carriage and pressed it to the ground. The horse driving the carriage was startled. It dragged the reins and a few planks, neighing as it ran away. Jiang Wang held the hilt of Changxi vertically. He half-squatted beside Hu Xiaoming and was about to kill him. "Wait!" Hu Xiaoming coughed up blood and shouted. Just now, he tried his best to move and slightly avoided his vital parts. He did not die on the spot. However, at this moment, his life was in someone else's hands. Jiang Wang's Taoist energy swept him. With a thought, Jiang Wang directly broke through Hu Xiaoming's heavenly palace with sword energy and completely crippled him. He did not say anything, but his meaning was clear. I might as well listen to what you have to say, but I won't give you any chance. With his cultivation crippled, Hu Xiaoming spat out another mouthful of blood. However, he seemed to be prepared. He breathed heavily and said, "Before I die, I have something to ask of you. I won't agree. I'll exchange it with you. I can't leak the secret technique of my sect, but the secret technique I obtained is not included in the blood oath. What do you think of the treasure light formula? I obtained it during an exploration in my early years. I used it to discover the sky, clear cloud sheep." "What is it?" Jiang Wang added. "I've already promised your head to someone else. I can't spare your life." "Zhu Biqiang? That stupid woman and her sister." Hu Xiaoming stopped cursing halfway. He disdained to waste his breath on them. He changed the topic. "I don't want to live. Without my cultivation, what's the point of living?" He looked at Jiang Wang. A strange smile suddenly appeared on his face. "I have a gift for my father. Can you not kill him?" "I don't plan to kill him. People often said to cut weeds by the roots, and often said to not harm family members. In the end, it was just a reason and support that each person found for their own actions. There was no absolute right or wrong. To Jiang Wang, he indeed did not plan to kill Hu Yu. He did not have this degree of hatred and did not care about the other's possible revenge. An old man with half a foot in the ground without talent or time. Killing him would not give him any peace of mind. Keeping him alive would not give him any anxiety. One should act according to one's heart. This is even better. Hu Xiaoming panted and continued. I have a shadow recording stone. After I die, you can show it to him. Show it to him. Just this, will you exchange it? This was a small matter. Jiang Wang still did not know the value of the treasure light mantra, but judging from the heavenly clear cloud sheep, it would not be too bad. I agree. You are a person of your word. I believe what you said. Hu Xiaoming barely finished reciting the treasure light mantra. He faced Jiang Wang and laughed strangely. Kill me. Then, show it to him. He finally turned his gaze back and looked at the sky. He seemed to see many familiar and unfamiliar faces. There was Zhu Suyao, whom he had used and then abandoned. There were fellow apprentice brothers who he had plotted against to steal their treasures. There were those innocent people whom he had silenced. Some people had deep affection for him, and some people had ulterior motives against him. He had also been truly loved and truly hated. Finally, in the snowy weather, there were two figures holding hands and standing inside the door. A man and a woman. One was his father, the other was his mother. You seem to hate me a lot, he murmured and laughed. He felt a sharp sword chi pierce through his heart. Chapter 239. Hu Xiaoming died with a strange smile on his face. Jiang Wang took out a photographic stone from his chest and a small pouch with fine craftsmanship. The pouch contained 10,000 primeval stones. Apart from one of the primeval stones, the rest were full. If converted to normal primeval stones, it would be 450 Dao primeval stones. Jiang Wang took them out and put them in his pocket. Just as he was about to throw the pouch away, he saw a character embroidered on the bottom right corner of the pouch. The character was slender, and the strokes were thin and straight. It was a typical Qi character. It was impossible not to learn Qi characters in order to make a living in Qi. Jiang Wang recognized that it was the character Su. Su Bai. Zhu Suyao's character Su. Jiang Wang thought for a bit and put it away. Of course, he would not miss the mirror in the carriage. The fact that Hu Xiaoming was able to create such a realistic illusion and perform illusions that far exceeded his own strength was definitely related to the mirror he was hiding in. In fact, if he did not point out where Hu Xiaoming was hiding, Jiang Wang would have to go through a lot of trouble to kill Hu Xiaoming. After confirming that Jiang Wang was determined to kill him and was cautious, Hu Xiaoming decided to give up everything in the Hu family. He quietly drove the carriage and wanted to escape. Jiang Wang's sword rushed over. He had no choice but to appear and meet the attack. Because he was hiding in the mirror world, if the mirror broke, he would break as well. He had no choice but to jump out of the mirror, but he also kept the small mirror. Looking at its appearance, there was nothing special about the mirror, but no one would ignore it. Jiang Wang believed that this mirror was his biggest gain. However, he still needed to research its uses. Walking into the Hu family's courtyard, Jiang Wang planned to fulfill his promise to obtain the treasure light chant. After pointing out where Hu Xiaoming was hiding, Hu Yu seemed to have lost his last bit of strength. Jiang Wang killed Hu Xiaoming not far from the door. Hu Yu did not even look at it. His wife had died many years ago. Although he did not confirm his wife's status, he already thought of her as his second wife. However, he was killed by his own son. Because he had caused the death of his first wife, who had been unable to raise his head for so many years. A father lived like a grandson in front of his son. These were all sins that he had committed, and he admitted it. But he would think so. What did the woman he loved do wrong? She had followed him for so many years without a proper status. They were clearly in love with each other, but she could only sneak around like they were having an affair. She was so aggrieved and so forbearing. Yet, she had to be insulted by her own son. He called her a whore when he opened his mouth and a whore when he closed his mouth. In the end, he even killed her directly. From the beginning to the end, in Hu Xiaoming's eyes, what was his father? He had killed his first wife. His son had killed his second wife. In the end, he personally led the way for his enemy to kill his son. Such a tragedy turned Hu Yu into a living corpse. He was still breathing, but he no longer had the meaning and joy of living. It was not until Jiang Wang's boots appeared in front of him that Hu Yu opened his mouth. After opening his mouth twice, he finally said in a hoarse voice, "Is Xiaoming dead?" Jiang Wang looked at the old man, who had given up on hope. "He has something to show you." Hu Yu was originally an extraordinary cultivator. Now that his Tao heart had collapsed, his life's cultivation had completely disappeared. He was even worse than an ordinary old man. He raised his head tremblingly. "Chat." Jiang Wang poured his Tao essence into the image-retaining stone, and a scene appeared in mid-air. It was a middle-aged woman. Although the crow's feet at the corners of her eyes were already obvious, she still had a charm. Jiang Wang did not know this woman, but from Hu Yu's eyes that suddenly rippled, he could guess who she was. She was not wearing clothes. She was wrapped around another man's body like a snake. That man was very unfamiliar, but he was not Hu Yu. The man's somewhat rough voice came from the image-retaining stone. "It's been so long. Don't tell me you really fell in love with that old guy. Are you crazy or am I crazy?" The woman's voice. "How could I fall in love with such a fat and ugly old thing? Hurry up and let me go back. I've been disgusted for so many years. When will it end?" Soon. Wait for young Master Shi." In the scene, Hu Xiaoming was sitting on a chair beside the bed with a smile on his face the entire time. From the looks of it, due to the concealment of the illusion technique, the man and woman on the bed had never discovered him. Hearing this, Hu Xiaoming's palm came down, and the two of them died together on the bed. Their conversation ended here. This was already enough. So it was the woman who you loved. The woman he regarded as his wife was a chess piece arranged by Shizichu. The two young cultivators with the most potential in Jia City had been entangled with each other for many years and were on guard against each other. Just like Hu Xiaoming's men in Jia City, Shizichu took a step closer and stuffed her next to Hu Yu's pillow. In the scene, Hu Xiaoming finally smiled and faced the image-retaining stone. Did you hear and see clearly? If not, you can watch it a few more times. He smiled very happily, so much so that tears flowed down. "You'll definitely like this present, my dear old father." The light screen disappeared. Hu Yu's entire old face wrinkled up, the wrinkles tangling together like a ball of thread. It didn't seem like an expression a human could make. Extreme pain and regret clashed. There were already no more tears in his old eyes. Unexpectedly, beads of blood dripped down, connecting to each other. It was unknown who he was crying for. Jiang Wang, who silently watched the entire scene from the sidelines, had an indescribable feeling in his heart. He finally understood what Hu Xiaoming's strange smile before his death meant. He didn't want Hu Yu to die, because he wanted Hu Yu to live a life worse than death. That snowy night, when his mother froze to death, had already decided his life. He could no longer believe in human emotions in his entire life. He had tortured Hu Yu his entire life, torturing himself. And this image-retaining stone, which he did everything he could to let Hu Yu see before his death. This was Hu Xiaoming's final revenge. Jiang Wang put away the image-retaining stone and turned to leave. Behind him, he heard a bang sound. He didn't need to turn his head to know that Hu Yu had crashed into the wall and died. He could have stopped him, but he didn't. Everyone had their own choices. Moreover, Hu said that living was better than dying. Separation of life and death didn't only happen in the Hu family. The suffering in this world was never exclusively suffered by one person. Throughout the ages, the only difficult thing was death. It referred to those who still had sentimental attachments to the world. Since ancient times, in order to resist the fear of death, the world's creatures had developed many methods. For example, cutting off emotions and eradicating fear directly. For example, developing things after death while alive. No matter what the nature of these methods was, judging from their performance. For some people, death really wasn't a terrible thing. This was a grand and magnificent palace, carved with emerald and jade, and illuminated by lampposts. The treasure ball was the sun and the moon, and the pearl was the star. This was an underground palace. The vent was cleverly hidden. Without the map of the underground palace, it would be very difficult to find. The main hall was empty. At this time, on the huge dragon throne, a man with an alienated temperament and an expressionless face was sitting. He seemed to have been sitting there for a long time, but also seemed to be sitting there forever. When he used to live in Maplewood City, he had a name. He was called Wang Zhangxiang. P.S. When more than 600 collections were on the shelves, there were at least 100 subscriptions and 80 subscriptions. The subscriptions were close to 8 to 1. If the results weren't good, I could comfort myself that the subscriptions were very strong. Now it has slowly risen to 3,000 collections, with an average subscription of 140. The subscriptions are even higher than 21. Life is already so difficult. New friends, please submit your subscriptions. What's the automatic subscription? And the recent double monthly votes, please vote. Chapter 240. Meanwhile, outside the Humain, Jiang Wang was fighting with the pig-bone-faced man. During the fierce battle, the pig-bone-faced man crushed the bone whistle and swallowed it. In a side hall of the underground palace thousands of miles away. Pig face. Pig face? The woman wearing the rabbit bone mask shouted a few times, but there was no response. Oh no, she hurriedly ran out. It wasn't that she wasn't anxious enough. It was just that this underground palace prohibited all spells, and this was already the limit. She ran to another side hall, where Zhang Linchuan, who was wearing a white bone mask, was playing chess with someone. Sitting opposite him was the former second elder of the White Bone sect, and now the only elder, Lu Yin, who was born with a nether eye. The White Bone sect, which had been accumulating strength for hundreds of years, had now withered. The huge underground palace was empty. Once, hundreds of thousands of sect members intended to establish a divine kingdom on the White Bone sect. Now, there were only a few core members left. There weren't 2 black and white pieces on the chessboard, but 1 black and 1 red. In the game, Lu Yan's black piece had a slight advantage. Although spells were prohibited, such a short distance wouldn't make the rabbit-bone-faced man short of breath. The urgency in her tone was completely because of the pig-bone-faced man. However, it was unknown how much of it was true. Elder, Lord Envoy. She bowed and then reported, Pig-face has been liberated in the Yang Kingdom, and we have lost contact. Although she had the upper hand, Lu Yin had no intention of relaxing. She picked up a piece and fell into a long contemplation. She also ignored the rabbit-bone-faced man's words. On the other hand, Zhang Linchuan turned his head and looked at the rabbit-bone-faced man with his eyes behind the mask. How's his matter? The rabbit-bone-faced man was silent for a moment and said, I've completed the branding and planted the seed. This time, we lost contact because he was going to kill someone from the Zhuang Kingdom. Zhang Linchuan turned back and said lightly, It's fine if the matter is settled. As for the rest, he can do as he pleases. At this time, Lu Yin had already placed a piece. Zhang Linchuan answered with a red piece and suddenly asked, Who's the Zhuang Kingdom? I don't know. He didn't say clearly. He only said that there was a little bug from the Zhuang Kingdom and he wanted to fill his stomach. The rabbit-faced man glanced at Zhang Linchuan cautiously. That little bug seems to be from Maplewood City. That's why Pig Face couldn't hold back. The failure of Maplewood City had almost destroyed the hundreds of years of hard work of the White Bone Path. Maplewood City. Zhang Linchuan smiled mysteriously. It reminds me of Zhu Weiwa. I heard that he ignited the true fire of the sun in Buyao City and achieved the divine ability Intermansion. He killed 4 of my masked men in a row and went against Wu Fu Kuei-shan. I wonder how bright Xian Jinchong is now. The rabbit-bone-faced man didn't say anything, nor did he move. Zhang Linchuan didn't look at her and only asked, Anything else? Something went wrong with Pig-face cultivation of the 12 divine bone manifestations, and he'll lose his mind when he's in a liberated state. In a small place like Jiacheng, he didn't know who could force him to that extent. I'm worried that he is in danger. Zhang Linchuan casually put down a chess piece. Do you know why the chess pieces are black and red when I play chess with the elder? He said, Before the age of white bone descended, some of us would never see the light of day, and some of us would never be able to wash away the color of blood. This subordinate understands. The rabbit bone-faced man didn't say anything else, bowing and leaving. In the large side hall, only Zhang Linchuan and Lu Yin were left playing chess. The black and red chess pieces continued to kill each other. After an unknown amount of time, the lamppost in the hall didn't show any changes in time. Lu Yin suddenly said, "Pig Face is dead." Her tone was normal. He had the nether eye that could see through yin and yang, so it wasn't strange that he could detect Pig Face's death from thousands of li away. Zhang Linchuan didn't even have a trace of fluctuation, saying faintly, "Someone has to watch over Jiacheng. I'll let Snake Face go." I'm curious, which fish in Maplewood City has escaped the net and has battle strength above the soaring dragon realm that can kill Pig Face? You've been in Maplewood City for so long. Can't you think of anyone? Pig Face and Paper Face's battle strength is strong. But because his mind is dominated by rage, his true battle strength can't be fully displayed. His strength is at the top of the 12 bone faces, but he's easier to kill than the others. Zhang Linchuan shook his head. If he's dead, then he's dead. It's not worth paying attention to. If he knew that person was Jiang Wang, if he knew that Jiang Wang fought head-on, he probably wouldn't say that. Lu Yin said, "After Maplewood City, Snake Face has been close to the saint. If you move her to where Pig Face died, you have to be careful of the saint's thoughts." Is a saint who's like a stranger to the saint still a saint? Zhang Linchuan said, "I just have to be careful of the saint's thoughts." Lu Yin glanced at Zhang Linchuan with her white eyes. "And the saint doesn't seem to have any thoughts. So I don't have to be careful." Zhang Linchuan picked up a chess piece. "Speaking of a saint, has he changed?" Lu Yin shook her head. "He's still sitting there." "Ah," Zhang Linchuan laughed. "The saint, the elders, and the emissaries are all in this underground palace. I wonder who in Zhuang State can find this place." He pressed down a red chess piece. "Kill this dragon." The Hu family's courtyard was burned in flames. The family's wealth was confiscated by the Chongxin family. 2 corpses were burned to ashes. Hu Xiaoming's death had a great impact. However, he conspired to steal from the Zhongenjia, and there was solid evidence of his evil deeds. Jiang Wang didn't have to do it himself. If the Yang Country and Fishing Sea Tower had any questions, the Zhongenjia would negotiate with them. In fact, if the Shi family of Jia City pretended to be deaf and mute, the Yang Country's upper echelons would be happy to turn a blind eye. Jiang Wang cut off Hu Xiaoming's head and brought it back to the mine. Zhu Biqiong was waiting for him outside the mine. The two of them didn't speak. Jiang Wang directly handed the head to her, along with the little pouch embroidered with the word Su. Zhu Biqiong only glanced at Hu Xiaoming's head before throwing it away. The head rolled a few times on the ground and stopped, looking out of the door. She grabbed the little pouch and rubbed it carefully. "This was embroidered by my sister," she muttered. "I also have one. I found it on Hu Xiaoming's body. There was only Dao origin stone in the pouch, so I took it." Zhu Biqiong made a sound of agreement. She didn't know how to feel about Hu Xiaoming keeping Zhu Suyao's belongings. At this time, the 3 dogs raised in the mine suddenly rushed out. 2 black and 1 yellow. The yellow dog ran at the front. Probably because it smelled blood, it circled around Hu Xiaoming's head and sniffed. Jiang Wang moved and stood next to the head, using the scabbard to chase them away. The yellow dog ran away, but the 2 black dogs weren't afraid. Instead, they stared at him and growled threateningly. In the past, the elders of Phoenix Creek Town said that dogs will become demons if they eat human flesh. So no matter how much you hate them, you can't let them eat humans, Jiang Wang explained. "Phoenix Creek Town?" Zhu Suyao muttered. "I'm afraid it's too late. They've already eaten." She looked at Jiang Wang and said, "The finger you cut off, and the corpse of that fatty." At this time, Xiao Xiao came out. Jiang Wang looked at her and frowned. "I told you to take care of the aftermath, but you didn't even take care of the corpse?" "Don't blame her. I told her not to bury them. I think they don't deserve to be buried. It's just right to let the dogs eat them." Zhu Suyao rushed to say. Xiao Xiao lowered her head, unable to speak. A cold light flashed, and the two black dogs that were still growling became corpses on the ground. After Jiang Wang killed the two black dogs, he said to Xiang Qian in the distance, "Kill that yellow dog as well." The yellow dog had already run into the mine and was happily running around people. Xiang Qian didn't say anything and killed it with one palm. Previously, he might have been hesitant about Jiang Wang's order. However, after today, especially after Jiang Wang promised to immediately cut off his head, Xiang Qian didn't hesitate. If Jiang Wang told him to go east, he wouldn't go west. Hu Laojin saw this from afar and couldn't help but cry out in grief. After raising it for so long, Master, Jiang Wang ignored him. Zhu Biqiong said, "You really believe in these things? Those who eat human flesh deserve to die." Jiang Wang said, "Whether it's a human or a dog." Chapter 241. With the death of the Hu father and son, the incident at the Hu mine had come to an end. The truth was revealed, the mastermind was brought to justice, the compensation from the Shi family, the Hu family's assets, and the compensation from the 5 small families in Jia City. Whether it was the truth, benefits, or face, everything was taken care of. This time, the depletion of the celestial bluestone mine was a complete success. No one could find fault with it. It laid the foundation for him to take over all the Zhonggenjia's businesses in Yang country. Jiang Wang's prestige in the Hu mine had been established. Prestige, one for power, the other for trust. Killing Zhu Gumian was to establish prestige. Letting Su Xiuxing go and killing Hu Xiaoming was to establish trust. After this incident, no one in the Hu mine would doubt Jiang Wang's words anymore. The obedience of the miners and martial artists was needless to say. Zhang Hai had also repeatedly expressed his loyalty. He arranged for the mine to resume operations, sorted out the relevant resources, contacted Cheng Gengsheng, and asked him to send someone to take over. His goal was to unify the Zhonggenjia's businesses in Yang country and turn it into Cheng Gengsheng's base. The Hu mine would be the foundation for him to do that. After completing all the tasks, Jiang Wang returned to his room and had time to sort out his gains. As for the compensation from the 5 small families, other than the rare techniques, Jiang Wang gave all the other resources to Cheng Gengsheng, including the Hu family's assets and the Shi family's compensation. Jiang Wang did not take a single cent. Of course, how much Cheng Gengsheng took and how much he gave to his family was Cheng Gengsheng's own business. His own gains included the celestial bluestone spirit, a celestial bluestone sheep, 450 Dao Yuan stones, a treasure light technique, and a treasure mirror that greatly enhanced illusions. He planned to give half of the celestial bluestone sheep to Cheng Gengsheng, because even though he took it back from someone else, it was still from the Zhonggenjia's mine. The azure cloud sheep could directly digest and absorb it. It could greatly increase the user's control over the wood elemental energy and enhance their wood elemental talent. Even if it was only half, it should not be underestimated. It could be seen as an advanced effect of the Azure Dragon chapter of the 4 Spirits Body refining technique. However, in order to avoid excessive imbalance of the 5 Qi, Jiang Wang planned to use it only after he had cultivated the White Tiger chapter to perfection and the 4 spirits had converged. The effect of the treasure light mantra was that the caster had a certain chance of seeing the treasure light. The strength of the treasure light reflected the value of the treasure. Hu Xiaoming's mirror was called Red Zhuang. After some research, Jiang Wang discovered that Hu Xiaoming had the ability to create illusions. This was also the reason why Hu Xiaoming was so elusive. Although illusions didn't have any combat power, they were very valuable in terms of the degree to which they could pass off as reality. Moreover, Hong Zhuang could hide in the mirror world. However, once a person entered the mirror world, the mirror itself lost its protection. Before the sacrificial refining was completed, Jiang Wang did not plan to explore it personally. After entering the great illusionary land and communicating with Cheng Gengsheng, Jiang Wang pushed open the door and walked out. As expected, Xiao Xiao was standing outside the door. It seemed that she had been there for a long time. Master, I dare not lie to you. It was my decision to feed Hu Xiaoming and that monster's flesh to the dogs. Miss Yu only helped me cover it up. They are your enemies. I heard that if they are eaten by animals, they will never be reincarnated. I don't want them to have a chance to take revenge on you in their next life. She lowered her head and waited for the verdict. Jiang Wang was not surprised. Zhu Biqiang was a person who grew up in a greenhouse. It was difficult for her to have such cruel thoughts. He did not expose her at that time because he wanted to give Xiao Xiao a chance. If she did not take it herself, this chance would be gone. In this cruel world, the bottom line of a person was unprecedentedly low. Some people died for glory, and some people bent their knees for money. What made Jiang Wang wary was not Xiao Xiao's bottom line, but her concealment. If there's a next time, don't call me master, Jiang Wang said and walked out. There won't be a next time. Xiao Xiao stood behind him and bit her lower lip. Shi Zichu did not gain anything from the Humine and returned to the city with the soldiers. He no longer had the mood to maintain his image. He quietly entered the house like a cat. The death of a soaring Dragon Realm elder was not insignificant to the Shi family, which only had 4 soaring Dragon Realm experts. However, compared to the Hu family's outcome, it was not that hard to accept. The city lord's mansion was heavily guarded. The atmosphere was very tense. The Zhenggenjia, who had committed a crime, seemed to ease the conflict even if they were compensated. However, as the weaker party, such a reaction was not surprising. Shi Zichu thought as he walked to his father's study. The soldiers guarding the door did not dare to stop him and let a knock on the door. Come in. After a while, a voice came from the room. Shi Zichu pushed the door open and entered. The first thing he saw was Advisor Lu sitting with his back facing him. His father, Shi Munin, was behind the desk with a gloomy expression. Sitting around them were the commander and deputy commander of the city guards, the lieutenant and deputy lieutenant in charge of public security, as well as the Shi family elders. They all bowed when they saw Shi Zichu. It seemed that they were discussing something important. Shi Zichu himself was completely unaware of this. He could not help but feel uneasy. Father, what's wrong? He asked. Shi Munin glanced at him and waved his hand. Just do as I said and go do your work. This student will take his leave. Advisor Lu stood up first and saluted before leading the way out. He was from the Confucian sect and did not want to take up a position. In front of the city lord, Shi Munin, he often referred to himself as a student to show respect. As for Shi Zichu, he only nodded slightly as a greeting. No matter what he thought, at least on the surface, Shi Zichu did not dare to be negligent. He returned the greeting seriously and saluted the others who filed out. As the last person left, the door was closed. Shi Zichu looked at his father's troubled expression and could not help but ask, "What happened, father?" Shi Munin avoided the topic. "Tell me about you." "I lost, and I lost very cleanly. I got nothing from the mine. The treasure that Hu Xiaoming was scheming for was the spirit of the heavenly emerald cloud stone, which manifested as the heavenly emerald cloud sheep. It was obtained by Jiang Wang." Shi Zichu did not shirk the responsibility and directly admitted, "The family has suffered a great loss this time. The responsibility lies entirely with me." Shi Munin looked at him quietly for a while, then looked at his only son. He had 2 other sons in his early years, but one died young and the other was killed by an enemy. As for this last son whom he had entrusted everything to, he did not spoil him too much. Instead, he was very strict with him. This kind of discipline did not involve words and deeds, but mainly focused on strategy, cultivation, combat, and the ways of the world. In his opinion, being dissolute was not a bad thing. It was the right thing to let the Shi family flourish. Pride was not a problem. The problem was to have the ability to match that pride. Even I have to address the elder who died in the Hu family's mine as my uncle. Shi Munin said he could have been enjoying his old age at home. He should have died of old age on a warm bed and not be killed in the coal mine. He is the only soaring Dragon Realm fighter that the Shi family can deploy now. I asked him to help you, and he was very willing. Because you are a descendant of the Shi family, the future of the Shi family. Because he is your uncle. Shi Munin pressed his forehead. But I didn't even see his corpse coming back. Chapter 242. I know I'm wrong. As soon as Shi Munin finished speaking, Shi Zichu lowered his head. I'm afraid you don't know. Your son is well aware of that. That's your granduncle. Even if you don't have much contact with him and don't have any feelings for him, he's still your granduncle. You shouldn't be so indifferent. This is in front of you, father. I think there's no need to hide. You can't even be bothered to hide it in front of your father. How can I expect you to hide it in front of others? Shizichu opened his mouth, but did not say anything. You, Shimanen pointed at Shizichu and said, not only did you underestimate Jiang Wang, but you also underestimated Hu Xiaoming. Do you think you suppressed him for so long because of your own ability and not the Shi family's influence? If your eyes can only see 3 feet in front of you, then it's better not to look. If your ears can only hear within a wall, then it's better not to listen. East King Valley's 4 ways of diagnosis have turned you into a blind, deaf, and idiot who only believes in the little things you know. These words were too harsh. Shizichu had never heard of them and found it hard to accept. Father, he could not help but say, I asked Lu Gan and Elder to go to the mine together and used Jiang Wang's background to lead the pig-bone-faced cultivator there. For all these reasons, was Jiang Wang still not important enough? In the end, man proposes but God disposes. What do I do if I'm not lucky? Moreover, Elder was the only one who passed away in the end. Is it only my fault? Including you and me, the Shi family has a total of 4 soaring dragon realm fighters. Lu Gan and I can't move at all. There's a tiger outside and a big problem inside. The prefectural governor has been eyeing our Shi family for a long time, but due to the situation, he couldn't make a move. You and your granduncle have 2 soaring dragon realm fighters. As you said, there's also the white bone-faced cultivator who was targeted by you. But when it happened, where were you? You were tricked by Hu Xiaoming's illusion in the city like a marionette. I don't understand. What tiger? What internal problem? What kind of tiger is Rizhao prefectural governor? Within 5 years, I'll definitely break through to the inner palace. When I reach the inner mansion realm, it will be time for you to seek the position of prefectural governor. As for internal problems in the entire Jia city, if you count each and every one of them, who would be able to deal with it? Shizichu also felt wronged, and the more he spoke, the angrier he got. I'll say something disrespectful. If it weren't for your excessive caution, father, according to my original plan, the 4 of us should all move out and directly suppress them with our strength. How could the heavenly clear cloud goat change hands? With that treasure, I won't even need 5 years to break through to the inner palace realm. Have you not considered which is more important? You're blaming your son here. Shimunin fell silent. He looked at Shi Zichu in silence. After a long time, he said, You disappoint me. Get out, he said. Father, get out. He even lost his composure and roared. After leaving his residence, Jiang Wang first went to the small courtyard where Zhang Hai lived. As the first transcendent cultivator to officially surrender to him, Jiang Wang still had to show a certain degree of closeness, even though he was only at the Meridian Wandering Realm. Moreover, this was a cultivator who was obsessed with alchemy. Even if he wasn't an expert, he could still refine some healing pills that were of some value. After chatting with Zhang Hai, Jiang Wang went to Xiang Qian's residence under his attentive escort. Compared to Jiang Wang himself, Zhang Hai, who was obsessed with alchemy, and Xiang Qian, who was muddle-headed, were both existences that really needed maids. In fact, if these 2 good-for-nothings weren't transcendent cultivators, Jiang Wang doubted if they could survive on their own. He walked into the courtyard that could barely be considered clean. This was already considered good. With such a lazy master, the maids couldn't be any more diligent. Xiang Qian wasn't muddle-headed today, and there wasn't the smell of alcohol on his body. It seemed that he was already prepared for Jiang Wang to come knocking on his door. He dismissed the maids. Tell me, Jiang Wang said directly, what plans do you have? If you chase me away, I'll leave. If you don't chase me away, I'll continue to muddle along. Although Xiang Qian wasn't muddle-headed anymore, his tone was still ghostly. It doesn't matter where I lie. You're not weak. Would you consider working for me? I'm already doing things for you. His meaning was clear. Looking at the mine, escorting the miners back to Qingyang town, these simple things were fine. Doing other things was out of the question. If it was before the battle with the pig bone-faced man, Jiang Wang wouldn't have cared if Xiang Qian stayed or left. But after discovering Xiang Qian's hidden strength, his value increased. He was worth Jiang Wang's effort to persuade him to stay. Things in the world were that simple. Jiang Wang came to the Yang Kingdom alone, without a single soldier. The Yang Kingdom's business was won by Cheng Gengsheng. If he couldn't control it, it would soon be taken over by Yung Gunzuan. No matter how small the Yang Kingdom was, it was still a country. With such a big plate, all kinds of resources were scattered. Jiang Wang couldn't rely on himself to complete the integration. He needed manpower. He needed a lot of useful people. That was why he accepted Zhang Hai's surrender, nurtured Xiao Xiao, and fought for Xiang Qian now. Moreover, Xiang Qian was far more powerful than Zhang Hai. I won't force you. It's up to you whether you stay or leave. Jiang Wang recalled his father's style of managing the business. He set the tone first and tried to lower the other party's vigilance. I've seen your strength. I think you can play a bigger role, and I hope you can play a bigger role. Of course, I'll give you a corresponding reward. As long as you're willing to work for me, we can negotiate. I'll give you a clear price, and I won't let you lose out. I don't know what made you choose to live in your current state. And these, unless you're willing to tell me, I won't ask you. What I want to tell you is, Jiang Wang said seriously, if you have a grudge, I won't avenge you. If you have worries, I can't let you sleep in peace. If you have worries, I won't take responsibility for you to be worry-free. But if you work for me, you'll have such opportunities. One day, you'll be able to do those things on your own. I admit that you're strong and talented. Xiang Qian's eyelids were half closed. But you're only in the reaching heaven state. Do you know how big this world is and how strong the strong people are? Forget it. There was no mockery in his tone. He said, forget it. There's no other way. I'm a few decades older than you. It's not just time that's wasted. It's not just you and me who are hopeless. But Jiang Wang's posture, expression, tone, and intentions didn't waver at all. I came out of the mysterious land of heaven. The magical power of the inner mansion is already in my bag. Before that, the soaring dragon state wasn't a problem either. But my goal is definitely not the inner mansion. Jiang Wang said, because my enemy isn't there. His future was very far, and so was his goal. Xiang Qian looked at the young man in front of him. He wasn't drunk, but he was suddenly in a trance. This young man, he was too familiar. He once whipped a famous horse when he was drunk, afraid that he would hurt a beauty. Such a young man, he didn't know when it started. The young Xiang Qian was still alive, but the young Xiang Qian was dead. Xiang Qian had thought he'd accepted all this, but he couldn't deny the depression in his heart at this moment. In the end, he said, I'm not a hopeless person, but this is indeed a hopeless world. I'm willing to stay. Just take it as waiting to see when you'll realize this. But I'll decide how much I'll contribute and how I'll contribute. The only thing I can promise you is that my contribution won't be less than Zhang Hai's. You only need to pay me the same amount as him. Jiang Wang smiled. Promises were often more useful for people who didn't make promises easily. Deal. I forgot to report to you, Xiang Qian added lazily before Jiang Wang left. I'm cultivating the flying sword technique. Chapter 243. It was a pure flying sword technique, where one's life depended on the sword. As long as the sword was there, the person was there. If the sword was broken, the person would die. It was an ancient cultivation path that was rarely seen, and its killing power was astonishing. But because the path was bumpy and it was difficult to seek the great Tao, it gradually declined in the transcendent world. The decline of the flying sword technique did not mean that it was not powerful. In fact, in the cultivation world, there were hundreds of schools of thought contending. Every day, new cultivation methods were born and reformed. History itself was a process of great waves washing away the sand. The pure flying sword technique was too extreme, but it had never been truly abandoned by the cultivation world. For example, the Taoist sword technique of the Taoist sect was developed with the flying sword technique as the foundation. while retaining most of the killing power of the flying sword technique. It also incorporated the wide variety of Taoist techniques, and at the same time reduced the influence of weapons on lives. But now, even though there were more and more widely accepted cultivation options, the pure flying sword technique still had its adherents. Just like the ancient military school's cultivation path of blood and qi, the weapon cultivators of the modern world were already generally suitable for the common cultivation path of the modern world, with only some differences in the cultivation concept and some details. This kind of weapon cultivator was safer and had more opportunities to grow. This kind of change was also an important reason why the military school had become one of the prominent figures of the modern world. But there were still people who adhered to the ancient path of weapon cultivators, walking the dangerous path of blood and qi. Like Du Yehu, these people who adhered to tradition could be said to be pedantic and conservative, but it could also be said that they were the inheritors of the ancient era, using their own weak strength to continue the light of that era that might have already disappeared. They themselves did not care, because there were thousands of paths, and they only chose the path they wanted to walk. That was all. I've picked up a treasure, Jiang Wang thought to himself. A pure flying sword cultivator, no matter what the future held. Just now, the killing power that this person could erupt with far surpassed Zhang Hai's. If this kind of talent sincerely submitted to him, it would be worth it. Of all the women Jiang Wang knew, Yi Qingyu and Zhu Biqiang were the two best protected. They had not experienced much of the trials and hardships of the world, and their understanding of the dangers of the world was also very vague. The difference was that Yi Qingyu's father was much stronger than Zhu Biqiang's sister. Therefore, he was able to treat the entire Yi nation and its surrounding regions as his backyard, allowing his daughter to wander around as she pleased. He only gave her some life-saving treasures. Those who didn't have eyes couldn't hurt his daughter, and those who had eyes wouldn't offend him. As a result, Yi Qingyu's horizons were higher, her vision was broader, and her actions were more magnanimous. The only thing she lacked was the experience of life and death. However, this was not a problem for Pavilion Master Ling Xiao. It wouldn't be difficult to tailor the relevant experience for her. From the previous correspondence with Yi Qingyu, Pavilion Master Ling Xiao should have already resolved this matter. Zhu Su Yao did everything she could, but she could only protect a small area so that her younger sister could not see the world. As a result, some parts of Zhu Biqiang were as pure as a piece of white paper. Fortunately, Zhu Biqiang had the support of the Ocean Fishing Tower, which allowed her to grow to this day. However, the sect was not a charity house. The internal competition was also very intense. As a transcendent cultivator, Zhu Biqiang needed more than just a charity house to supplement her life. In Jiang Wang's opinion, after Zhu Su Yao was obstructed by the Heaven and Earth Gate, her temperament changed greatly. On one hand, it was because of Hu Xiaoming's fickleness. On the other hand, it could also be because she felt increasingly powerless to protect her younger sister, causing her to feel despair about the future. This was the reason for the trip to the Heavenly Palace Hidden Territory. After Zhu Su Yao's death, with Zhu Biqiang's naivety, her days in the Ocean Fishing Tower would not be too good. It was hard to say whether this kind of protection was right or wrong, at least for Jiang Wang. If possible, he would also choose to let Jiang Ainin never see the world's darkness for the rest of her life. However, he didn't do it. Zhu Biqiang carried a bag and was about to leave. When she slipped out of the sect, she was all alone and didn't bring anything. However, after living with Xiao Xiao for a long time, she gradually accumulated some small items. For example, small embroidered bags, hair ribbons, and so on. Xiao Xiao also sewed a small green jacket for her, because she heard that Zhu Biqiang lived by the sea. She felt that living near so much water would make her very cold. The sea is actually very hot, Jiang Wang said. He had a bit of headache. Dugu Xiao hadn't even left the county in her life, so it was understandable that she didn't know the situation by the sea. What was Zhu Biqiang's situation? Although cultivators didn't need to avoid heat or cold, in a crowd of people wearing thin clothes, wouldn't wearing a small green jacket be too conspicuous? Xiao Xiao was a bit surprised and embarrassed. She believed Jiang Wang's words without a doubt. What does it matter if it's hot or cold? Zhu Biqiang said heartlessly, "It's fine as long as it looks good." She loved this small green jacket to death. The style was beautiful and the workmanship was fine. No one could deny Xiao Xiao's talent in tailoring. "This is for you." Zhu Biqiang took out the ball of fortune and disaster and handed it to Jiang Wang. "This is the only valuable thing I have on me." Jiang Wang didn't take it. "Why are you giving it to me? You helped me take revenge. I owe you a big favor." "Of course, one ball of fortune and disaster isn't enough, but I'll find a way to make up for it in the future." She blinked. "I, Zhu Biqiang, am a woman of my word." At this time, the little thief looked at her and said weakly, "Big Sister Zhu, you said you would teach me martial arts." Zhu Biqiang, looking at Xiao Xiao's innocent and eager eyes, she couldn't say the word no. "How about I stay for another month?" she asked. Jiang Wang looked at Xiao Xiao with satisfaction. This maid was very sensible and didn't need to worry about her. When she saw him come over, she understood that he wanted to keep Zhu Biqiang, so she immediately took the opportunity to help persuade him. Zhu Biqiang felt sympathy and pity for Xiao Xiao, and she treated her like a little sister. However, this girl Xiao Xiao wasn't as simple as she thought. When she was sold by her parents for the first time, Xiao Xiao could no longer be considered child, not to mention that she had experienced so many things afterwards. Ever since she started following Jiang Wang, she had been working hard to show her value, but only now did she find the right way. As for why he wanted to keep Zhu Biqiang, of course, it wasn't because he had any thoughts about her. He simply lacked manpower, and every bit of strength he could get was a bit more. Zhu Biqiang's illusions were very useful and could deal with many situations. Jiang Wang said to Zhu Biqiang, "The ball of fortune and disaster is something your big sister left for you, so I can't take it. In my opinion, I killed Wu Xiaoming to fulfill my promise to you, so we don't owe each other anything. You don't have to feel that you owe me anything. If you really want to do something to feel at ease, it's very simple. I'm very short of manpower right now, so you can stay and help me do things for half a year. I'll pay you twice the amount Zhang Haiqian paid you. After half a year, we'll be even." At the mention of her big sister, Zhu Biqiang couldn't let go of the ball of fortune and disaster. Her path had always been planned well by her big sister. Now that she returned to the ocean fishing tower, she was actually very lost. "Zhu Biqiang, you're growing up," she said to herself in her heart. She looked up at Jiang Wang and promised with the stubbornness of a little girl, "Okay." Jiang Wang had never been a person who floated in the clouds. He believed that you would reap what you sow. The Hun mine and Qingyang town were his first plots of land. After getting rid of insects, he recruited farmers. He tried to sow seeds here, wanting to see the harvest next autumn. Chapter 244. Time passed quickly. A month passed in the blink of an eye, and it was already the end of May. It was almost the hottest time of the year. Jiang Wang glanced at the setting sun outside the window. He slowly stopped cultivating and hid the heaven and earth gate that was getting clearer by the day. The past month or so was the most peaceful period of time since Jiang Wang left Zhuang country. He basically devoted himself to cultivation. Of course, he didn't give up on farming. The celestial bluestone mine was close to being completely exhausted, but the miners in the Hu family's mine were all in good spirits. Under Cheng Gongsheng's arrangement, Jiang Wang began to take over all the Zhenggenjia's businesses in Yang country. Most of the restrictions from the Zhenggenjia were directly cut off by Cheng Gongsheng in Qi. Jiang Wang ran Qingyang town as his headquarters. Although it was inevitable for Jia Cheng to feel that it was a turtle dove occupying a magpie's nest. However, they couldn't clear their responsibility in the previous depletion of mine, so they could only hold their nose and accept it. In any case, the Zhenggenjia originally had 30 years of management rights here. The current town constable of Qingyang town was the original manager of the mine, Hu Laojian. Naturally, he would follow Jiang Wang's orders. As long as Jiang Wang was willing to use someone from Qingyang town as the town constable, at least on the surface, He respected the Shi family's ruling power. The Shi family wouldn't say anything. They would just treat it as if Hu Yu and Hu Xiaoming were still alive and were secretly competing with them. It wasn't difficult to let the people live a good life. The ruler just had to respect the established laws and regulations and not be corrupt. The way to let the people live and work in peace and contentment had long been written into laws and regulations by the predecessors. It was fine as long as they didn't distort or go against the flow. When a mine was depleted, they would search for new mines. When the mine was gone, other resources would be produced. The earth was generous. There were countless resources for the living on the earth. As long as they weren't overly greedy and knew how to control themselves, they would be able to multiply endlessly. It was even simpler for transcendent cultivators. They just had to not be overly exploited. They had to take what they deserved and make extraordinary contributions before a natural disaster. This was not difficult for Jiang Wang. In the end, Jiang Wang didn't do anything in Xinjiang town, but in just over a month, the people's mental outlook had been completely changed. In Jiang Wang's own cultivation, first of all, he had made it into the top 10 in the Great Illusionary Land. Among the reaching heaven states, he ranked 9th. After Lexi Blessed Land contributed 50 merit points, Jiang Wang dropped to the 32nd ranked Mount Longhu. From then on, he would only receive 950 merit points every month. He was already aware of the drop in the ranking of the Blessed Lands, so he was not disappointed. After all, the opponents he met in the Blessed Land Challenge were all of a higher realm than him. He didn't know where it would eventually stop, but at the very least, he hoped that before he was completely expelled from the Blessed Land, he could maintain his ranking and move forward. This goal seemed to be too far away. Including the points he had earned from the Sword Discourse Arena, he had a total of 5,410 points. On the other hand, the accumulation of Dharma was slow. It only increased by 7 points, making it 435 points. Needless to say, Jiang Wang always practiced Taoist magic arts diligently. In terms of cultivation, the Heaven and Earth Gate seemed to be real in his vision. It was a huge stone door about 3 feet high and 8 feet wide. This wasn't a real height. The unknown void where the Heaven and Earth Gate was located might not be able to measure its height. It was purely Jiang Wang's visual estimation. There were faint inscriptions engraved on the gate. They couldn't be seen clearly and were constantly changing. Everyone had their own unique Heaven and Earth Gate, which was different from each other. The Heaven and Earth Gate was everyone's most secret place. Naturally, it couldn't be studied by others. But in the vast world of cultivation, predecessors had left some records and analysis. Cheng Gongsheng naturally didn't lack these things. He gave Jiang Wang a lot of them. Some were completely different and not helpful at all. Some were similar and could be understood by analogy. According to the predecessor's notes, Jiang Wang speculated that these inscriptions might be the embodiment of his cultivation and his Tao. When he truly understood his own Tao, perhaps these inscriptions would be fixed. The most conspicuous thing on the stone gate was 3 horizontal lines. The top, middle, and bottom positions completely separated the Heaven and Earth Gate. These 3 horizontal lines represented heaven, earth, and man. They were the images condensed by Jiang Wang's small heavenly cycle. They were also the embodiment of his 3 strongest sword moves. They seemed light and unsubstantial, but in fact, they were the heaviest. If it weren't for these 3 horizontal lines, the Heaven and Earth Gate would have been pushed open by Jiang Wang. The foundation that had supported him until now was now hindering his progress. He had to bear everything he had built and push open the Heaven and Earth Gate with his own hands. Only in this way could he break the gap between heaven and man. It wasn't until now that Jiang Wang truly understood. Why was it said that the more powerful a reaching heaven state cultivator was, the harder and harder it was to push open the gate? People like Wang Yiwu, on the other hand, were on another level. His strength had reached the limit of the reaching heaven state. It had also surpassed the limit of the Heaven and Earth Gate. His Heaven and Earth Gate was invincible and unbreakable. and he was still trying his best to break the limit and make the heaven and earth gate stronger so that he could go further, which was almost impossible. The limit was the limit because it had been proven by countless geniuses in the past. Countless geniuses had reached this point but couldn't make any progress, so they declared it as the limit. The reason why Jiang Mengxiong dared to say that Wang Yiwu was the strongest reaching heaven state cultivator in the world was that he was at the limit of the reaching heaven state. Even the peerless Tianjiao in the past was only SOSO in this state. For Jiang Wang, of course, he had some ideas about Wang Yiwu's state. If he had the chance, he would go there, but he wouldn't insist on it. Everyone had different choices about the road ahead. For example, Ying Guan, under the pressure of the upper echelons of the Yu state, realized his potential in advance and stepped into the outer building state as quickly as possible. For example, Wang Yiwu, under Jiang Mengxiong's protection, kept strengthening his foundation and expanding the limit of the reaching heaven state. He advanced in the name of being the strongest. Jiang Wang was the same as Zhong Xinsheng. While stabilizing his foundation, he tried his best to move forward. It was hard to tell who was better before reaching the end. Wang Yiwu was of course famous for being the strongest reaching heaven state cultivator in the world, but he was only in the reaching heaven state after all. The current Ying Guan could easily kill him. But if Ying Guan was stopped in front of the god arrival state, the situation would be reversed when Wang Yiwu caught up with him. This was a long road of cultivation, and everyone had to do their best to tread it. For Jiang Wang, what he cared about the most was not the heaven and earth gate. It was the Mingzhu that lived in the heavenly palace. Jiang Wang had complicated feelings about the Mingzhu. On the one hand, he knew the relationship between the Mingzhu and the White Bone Path. On the other hand, it had saved his life. The Mingzhu's first reaction should have been because it had merged with Miaoyu's White Bone seed. Jiang Wang didn't know this. It was Miaoyu who had told him. The second time was when it touched Miaoyu's wound. Perhaps it touched Miaoyu's Tao energy. The Mingzhu transmitted the soul rebirth technique, which could only be used on White Bone Path disciples. The third time was when White Lotus used a secret technique to seal memories. It triggered the Mingzhu's reaction and protected Jiang Wang from having his memories sealed. It also transmitted the White Bone escape technique, which used lifespan to travel between yin and yang. The fourth time was when it warned him of the disaster in Maplewood City. After Maplewood City, the Mingzhu didn't make any strange movements. Jiang Wang didn't remember when it absorbed the death chi poison in the Heaven's secret realm. But last night, the Mingzhu moved a little in the heavenly palace. Jiang Wang believed in his judgment. Although his active research on the Mingzhu was fruitless, he never relaxed his observation of the Mingzhu. The Mingzhu had indeed moved quietly in the heavenly palace. He didn't know whether this was good or bad. This made him wary. Under his intentional or unintentional control, the Tao Vein true spirit no longer coiled around the Mingzhu. Instead, it shuttled back and forth between the 9-star rivers, constantly refining and refining. There were 7 cities in Rizhao Prefecture, and they were all roughly the same size. Jia City was in the middle east of Rizhao Prefecture, and in the southwest of Jia City was Yu City. In the north of Yu City, there was a family surnamed Li. The head of the family was out doing business all year round and rarely returned home. No one knew what he was doing. A while ago, he suddenly came back and packed up some things before leaving. It was said that he had a big business overseas. No one knew if he went to Qi City or somewhere else. His half-deaf, ugly wife couldn't say for sure. These days, not many ordinary people would cross the border. Many people lived in mountain villages their whole lives and had never even gone to town. Thus, no one could verify whether it was true or not. No one had the time to do so. But not long after, Old Li came back again. This time, he had stayed at home for a long time. The ugly woman whom he had arranged to live with years ago was also blushing all day long. She was very happy. The Li family didn't interact much with their neighbors, so they didn't ask how their business was doing. But judging from the family's daily necessities, it wasn't bad. For many people, life was always normal. One day, the half-deaf, ugly wife of the Li family hurriedly went out and spent a lot of money to invite the best doctor in the west of the city. She didn't know what illness Old Lee had. It was only then that the neighbors found out. Old Lee's family was rich. Otherwise, who could afford to invite the doctor in the west of the city? Not to mention, they invited the famous doctor, old Master Cheen. He was the previous head of the clinic, and he hadn't seen patients in a long time. Without 100 taels of gold, how could they invite him? Some of the smarter ones were already thinking about what kind of gift they should bring to Old Man Lee's door to curry favor with him when he got better. They also wanted him to bring them along and see if they could get involved in such a profitable business. Even rich people had distant relatives in the deep mountains, let alone rich neighbors who lived so close to them. Although Old Lee was old, he must have a lot of connections. Otherwise, how could he have so much money? When ordinary people got sick, they could grit their teeth and get through it. How could they be so expensive to see a doctor, let alone such an expensive doctor? When someone in the city lord's mansion fell sick, they all went to see this family. As for whether the illness could be cured, old Master Cheen had already taken care of it. How could the illness not be cured? The next day, the smart neighbor got up early and prepared to go to the door with a gift box. But as soon as he walked out of the door, he was stunned. The door of the Lee family next door was closed. A white banner was hung in front of the door. Chapter 245. Without a doubt, Old Man Lee was a qualified spy. He had been selling pies in Jia City for many years. His pies were really good, not inferior to those old brands. All these years, he had been well-behaved and had good relations with his neighbors. He would only occasionally return to his home in U City. Although he called it home, it was just a smokescreen to confuse people. Anyone who came to investigate him would find a mess. No matter how smart they were, they would still have to spend a lot of effort. He lived his life normally. He would only do things when Hu Xiaoming looked for him. After seeing the world of transcendent cultivators, what was a bit of worldly gold and silver? This time, he went to World Tower's transcendent cultivator and hired a hitman to assassinate another transcendent cultivator. Just thinking about it made his old body's blood boil. After escaping the country, he stopped at a small city on the border of Rome. He had long been prepared to roam around, but he didn't expect that he would be able to return to his country. No one came to investigate him. His meticulously planned escape route became empty talk, and the path he had painstakingly chosen was ignored. He had already prepared himself to die, but the ending he had been waiting for didn't come. He had even fantasized many times that he would use his remaining life to perform in front of an angry, transcendent cultivator. He would play tricks on that transcendent cultivator and lead him in the wrong direction. It was always a good thing to not die. After going around in circles, he finally returned to his country. Since he couldn't return to Jia City, he might as well recuperate in U City. Fortunately, working for a transcendent meant that he didn't lack money. The woman in his home wasn't good-looking, but she was sensible and considerate. His days were the same as before. If Hu Xiaoming didn't contact him, he planned to continue living like this. It was no different from opening a pie shop in Jia City. It was nothing more than a dull day. He found out that he was sick 3 days ago. At first, he thought that it would be over after a while, but he didn't expect that his body would become weaker and weaker. He thought that his old bones weren't afraid of death. How could he be afraid of death if he dared to participate in a beheading? But for some reason, when he saw the ugly woman he had married as a cover and saw the tears and snot on her ugly face, he was suddenly afraid. He took out a box of gold leaves from a secret compartment under the bed and threw it on the ground. He told the woman to invite a doctor, the best doctor. Money makes the world go round. Old Dr. Cheen came. Probably because he was old, his eyesight was blurry. He couldn't even take her pulse properly. He looked and observed again and again. In the end, he even took off his clothes. After taking a look, he fell to the ground on his butt. He got up and left immediately without taking a single piece of gold leaf. Old Man Lee knew that he was finished. It was hopeless. Fortunately, he had left behind some gold and silver. Money was just a worldly possession. She couldn't bring it with her when she was born and couldn't bring it with her when she died. However, It was enough for this ugly but kind-hearted woman to live a good life. Unfortunately, he was unable to continue working for that powerful transcendent master. For the rest of his life, he could only approach the world of transcendence in this way. At this time, Oldley did not know that Hu Xiaoming, who was like a demon in his heart, had been killed. He had his own old cares. He lay on the bed and closed his eyes tiredly. He didn't know what kind of impact his death would have on this land and this world. His half-deaf, ugly woman didn't even touch the gold and silver. She just hugged his body that was gradually turning cold and cried in a very unpleasant way. However, the neighbor who was carrying gifts out saw the white banner hanging in front of the Li family's door. The two groups of armored soldiers guarding the door also made him tremble in fear. Adulterous couple? Murder for money? A lot of messy thoughts flashed through his mind. He turned his head and was about to return to his house. "Stop! What are you doing?" The soldier shouted loudly, but he didn't go near. "Sir." The man walked forward, wanting to get closer to explain. However, he was shocked by the soldier who suddenly pulled out his sword. "Just stand there. Don't come near." Yes. I won't go near." He was so scared that his face turned pale. He quickly explained, "I heard that old Manly was sick. As a neighbor, I wanted to buy some gifts to see him. I don't know what happened in his house, sir." The soldier asked, "You have a good relationship with this family? Do you usually move around?" "I haven't had the chance. He hasn't been home all this time. It wasn't easy for him to come back recently. As the saying goes, a close neighbor is better than a distant relative, so I wanted to move around." The soldier turned around and looked at his comrade. He turned his head and scolded, "Go back to your room. You're not allowed to go out for the next few days." The man didn't dare to say anything. He lowered his head and scurried back to his room. His heart was filled with doubts and a trace of haze that could not be removed. In the largest and most famous medical hall in the west of U City, at this moment, the atmosphere was gloomy. All the disciples had been chased out of the backyard. Only old Dr. Qin sat alone in the courtyard. When the disciples talked to him, they could only shout from half a courtyard away. The city lord of U City was standing at the door. Old Mr. Qin was in his 90s this year. His body was still strong, and his words were still full of energy. However, for some reason, the eyes of the disciples blocking the door were red and swollen. The patient shivered and had a high fever. Since then, he had a headache, weakness, and pain all over his body, accompanied by nausea and vomiting. I took off his clothes to check and found that there were bruises and bleeding on his skin. Old Mr. Qin said there were lumps on his body, suppuration, and ruptures. From the onset of the illness to death, there were only 3 days. There is no doubt that it is the plague, the most terrifying type of plague. The city lord of U City stood at the door and asked with a sullen face, "Is there a way to cure it? How can we prevent the infection?" Old Mr. Qin said miserably, "Once the illness strikes, there is no medicine to save him. He can only wait for death. The only way to prevent the infection is to seal off the entire street and trap all the people who have come into contact with the infected person. They are isolated from the outside and are not allowed to come into contact with others. I don't know if I've been infected, so I can only imprison myself here and see what kind of fate the heavens have arranged for me. City Lord, this matter must not be concealed. It needs to be raised to the highest level of vigilance. The entire city must immediately be under martial law and enter a state of combat readiness. No one is allowed to go out. The necessities of life have to be mobilized with transcendent being powers. Only transcendent being cultivators can withstand the infection of the plague. At the same time, contact the imperial court. In this great disaster, we can't handle it alone. We have to ask for the imperial court's support. At present, we don't know the source of the plague, nor do we know where Old Manly has been. We have to mobilize the entire country to deal with it. We even need the help of the sovereign country, and we can only wait. Wait for the infected person to die on his own, and then burn the corpse. We have to be locked up for at least a month before we can recover." Old Man Qin, U City's city lord, couldn't help but say, "It can't be like this, right? I've already ordered people to seal off the street where the infected person is and not allow anyone to come into contact with him. It's just this one case. I don't see what can be done. Why do we have to cause the entire city to panic? If a rat is discovered, there must be a nest of rats. If a case of the plague breaks out, there are at least 5 cases lurking. Old Mr. Cheen advised earnestly. Your Excellency, City Lord, you have to guard against the slightest thing. You must know that a 1,000-mile dike can be destroyed by an ant's nest. Besides, how can this be a slightest thing? There are already people who have fallen ill, and the plague has already spread. This is a tsunami and landslide. You City Lord was silent for a long time. I know. Old Man Cheen, you can rest at ease. You might not be infected. The prevention and control later will still require your strength. Without waiting for old Mr. Cheen to speak, you City Lord left with his imperial guards. Old Mr. Cheen sat alone in the courtyard and suddenly burst into tears. Chapter 246. Master, what's wrong? Don't scare us. Grandmaster, Grandmaster. The disciples and grand disciples guarding outside the door panicked, but as doctors, they knew how terrifying the plague was, especially when old Cheen had strictly ordered that no one was allowed to approach. They were all concerned, but it didn't affect the old man's crying at all. Ever since old Mr. Cheen came back from his house visit, he wrapped himself tightly and refused to let anyone get close. He imprisoned himself in the courtyard. The entire medical hall was already in a state of panic. Over the years, the medical hall had been through a lot. What had it not experienced? No one had ever seen old Mr. Cheen lose his composure like this. The 90-year-old man cried bitterly, heartbroken. Everyone who saw it was heartbroken. Father. Finally, old Mr. Cheen's son, the current head of the medical hall, Cheen Yinmin, knelt on the ground and cried, Your son is unfilial. Father, why are you crying? I'm crying. How heartless the heavens are to send such a disaster. I'm crying. This city was entrusted to the wrong person. The city lord doesn't care about the people. The disaster is imminent. The old man cried, his voice sorrowful. In his life, he rarely made mistakes in treating patients and judging people. Although the city lord of U-City didn't make a clear statement, he could already see his evasiveness. He concluded that his plan to treat the plague would definitely not be adopted. And without the decisive measures led by the city lord manor, he didn't dare to imagine what would happen to the entire city. Father. Cheen Yinmin was also in his 50s. His hair was already slightly white, but looking at his helpless father, he was also like a child who had lost his direction. He walked a few steps on his knees and cried, What can we do? Go. Old Mr. Cheen stopped crying, stood up, and said hoarsely, If you still remember the virtues of a doctor, if you still have humanity, then all of you go. Go and spread the news of the plague in your city. Tell the people not to go out. Go to the neighboring counties and tell the local officials to be vigilant. Go to the capital and tell His Majesty, let him know what his people are going through. The 90-year-old old man finally stood in the courtyard, his halberd pointing to the sky. Like a general protecting the country, he roared out a military order, Go! With a shout, he spat out blood and immediately fell to the ground. Before the plague broke out, people had already passed away. Father. Cheen Yinmin knelt on the ground. He wanted to run into the courtyard, but he stopped himself. There was a piece of Xian paper in front of the door with words written on it. It was written by old Master Cheen himself after he came back. After I die, I don't need to be buried. You're not allowed to go near my corpse. Burn my bones, purify them in the flames. Dig a hole and fill it with my ashes. Violators are unfilial and rebels are disloyal. After communicating with the old doctor, U-City Lord walked out of the medical hall with a gloomy mood. No one would be willing to see such a disaster happen under their rule. That guy, who brought the plague from God knows where, should be punished by 10,000 blades. However, the most important thing right now was how to deal with the situation in front of him. The guard commander behind him asked in a low voice, "Sir, should we depart now? Where are we going?" The guard leader hesitated. "Aren't you going to seal off the entire region?" City Lord turned his head to look at him. His gaze was calm, but it was dignified. He is old and muddled. "Are you confused too? Just because he says it's the plague? Without more evidence, just based on one side of the story, he directly sealed off the city? Do you know how much damage it will cause to seal off the entire city for a month? How much food will be consumed? Not to mention mobilizing all the existing extraordinary powers in City. Can it sustain the lives of the people of the entire city for a month? Just the amount of Dao Yuan stones needed to drive these extraordinary powers. Do you know how much it is? Who will pay for it? Not to mention reporting it to the imperial court. Once the imperial court interferes in City's affairs, what else can I do? You have to know that only the name and the weapon can be fake. If you hand over your power, you won't be able to take it back. City belongs to me first, then to the Yang country. The guard commander lowered his head. Yes. City's city lord sighed in his heart for this stupid guard, thinking about when to replace him. He said, "No matter what, regardless of whether old Master Qin is an alarmist or not, we have to take the seriousness of the situation seriously. I will immediately write a letter and invite the medical cultivators of the East King Valley to come here and investigate personally. From today onwards, the entire city will be on alert. The standard is loose on the outside and tight on the inside. Especially the street where the sick person is, seal it off and isolate it from the outside. If anyone leaves without permission, kill without mercy." The guard commander was about to leave when he heard the city lord continue to instruct, "Send a group of people here and seal off this place. In order to prevent rumors from spreading and causing panic among the people, the medical hall will be closed for half a month from today onwards. No one is allowed to enter or leave." The guard commander was secretly alarmed and asked nervously, "What if they are unwilling?" City Lord glanced at him indifferently. "Follow the example of the street where the sick person is. It is very likely that old Master Qin is infected with the disease, isn't it?" The guard commander felt his throat dry. Yes. Walking in Xingyang town, there were obviously more people than before. Only a month had passed, and the burning of Hu Yu's family seemed to have been forgotten by the people. Hu Laojin was not a very talented person, but he knew his place and was diligent, and that was enough. Moreover, his surname was Hu, and he was from Hu Yu's family. He was also an elder of Xingyang town, so the people here did not reject him. Xingyang town was nominally one of the 8 towns of Jia City, but in reality, the Zhongginjia had 30 years of jurisdiction over this place. Chenggung Sheng gave this right to Jiang Wang. It could be said that this town belonged to Jiang Wang for the next 30 years, as long as he was willing. Therefore, he was very willing to walk around Xingyang town more, and was even willing to reduce some of his cultivation time and visit the villages under the town. Occasionally, he would act to drive away the ferocious beasts that crossed the border. Of course, Jiang Wang would not kill all of these ferocious beasts and challenge the already fragile nerves of the Yang country. Therefore, his actions were not big and were more like a pastime. It was difficult for people who had never wandered to understand this feeling of drifting without a sense of belonging. This place often reminded him of Fengxi Town, a town that he rarely returned to and did not cherish enough, but later on, he often thought of. Xiao Xiao was always by Jiang Wang's side. She grew up very quickly and learned martial arts from Zhu Biqiu. At the same time, she also managed the affairs of the mine in an orderly manner. She was different from Zhu Biqiu, who simply came out to see the world and enjoy the scenery. She enjoyed the feeling of being valuable, but she enjoyed the feeling of being by Jiang Wang's side even more. This was the person who had pulled her out of hell with his own hands. Following Jiang Wang, her uncertain heart would feel safe. The 3 round puppies were sucking milk with all their might, their little heads squeezed together and bumping against each other. The mother lying on the ground with a big white dog with beautiful fur. But at this moment, she was lying there stiffly, and her eyes showed a hint of hopelessness. Xiao Xiao realized that her master had been standing in front of this scene for a long time. He seems to like this scene, Xiao Xiao thought. She was not wrong. To Jiang Wang, this scene was very beautiful. This was the continuation of life, the light of hope. Chapter 247. The more people they met, the more they liked dogs. It was not because dogs were smart or considerate. It was because dogs were very pure. Pain was pain. Hunger was hunger. They would wag their tails when they were close to you and bare their teeth when they were unfamiliar. People were not like that. People's hearts were unpredictable. They could not see through, guess, or understand. The three puppies were drinking milk together. One was brown, one was black, and the other was white. Their fur colors were different. Zhu Biqiong looked at them for a while and said with a smile, "It's not easy to find their father." The black dog and the brown dog started a fight, probably because they were full. The two puppies were entangled together. The black dog was at a disadvantage and kept whining. They probably wanted the big white dog to teach them a lesson, but the big white dog just turned its head lazily to the side and looked into the distance. The white puppy jumped a few times on the side. Seeing that no one was paying attention to it, it was bored and lay down. After whining for a while, the brown dog pressed the black dog under its body. At this time, the black dog stopped whining. This was the way to announce the winner between puppies. The brown puppy was the winner, and the black puppy surrendered. The upright Jiang Wang couldn't stand it and poked it with a righteous foot. "Don't bully your brother." The brown puppy was easily overturned. It lay on the ground with its four limbs facing the sky. Its eyes were wide open and looked very confused. The black puppy, on the other hand, was heartless. It happily licked its paws. The big white dog stood up and growled threateningly at Jiang Wang. Jiang Wang fled with Zhu Biqiong and Duge Xiao. "I thought you hated dogs." Zhu Biqiong looked at Jiang Wang with her almond-shaped eyes and a smile on her lips. She was very happy to see Jiang Wang being chased around by the protective big white dog. It could relieve her a lot of grievances of being treated as a coolie. "I have no reason to hate dogs, as long as they don't eat human flesh." He didn't hide his love, but in front of the bottom line, all his love had to give way. Hu Laojin was now the town constable, but he didn't build a new house for himself. He still lived in the old house with his wife, who was said to be very fierce. This also made him more trusted by the people of Qingyang town. Seeing Jiang Wang come to the door, he hurriedly asked his wife to make tea. He also wiped the chair with his sleeve and invited the master cultivator to take a seat. His wife was also submissive at this moment. She didn't look fierce at all. Jiang Wang casually looked around the room and felt that the environment was okay. It was not shabby, so he asked casually, "This month will be over soon. Is there anything going on in town?" "Zhuangzi really has something to tell me. I was just about to go to the mine to report to you." The new village constable who said nervously, "Two people have died in our town recently. What's the reason? Who did this? Do you need me to ask Xiang Qian to investigate?" Jiang Wang looked up at Zhu Biqiong and said, "Bamboo heroine might be able to do the same." "What do you mean, maybe?" Zhu Biqiong jumped up. "If this lady makes a move, wouldn't it be easy to capture him?" Xiao Xiao looked at Zhu Biqiong enviously. She envied Zhu Biqiong's irreplaceable value. In this small world, there was a very clear value system. Depending on her past, it would affect her life. "I just don't know," Hu Laojin said with a bitter face. "These two people died of the same illness. What do the doctors say?" Zhu Biqiong naturally entered the state of solving the case. But as soon as she opened her mouth, she showed her unprofessionalism. There were no proper doctors in Qingyang town. Those few doctors could only treat people who were dizzy and feverish. They probably couldn't even find the cause of this kind of illness. Jiang Wang suddenly sat up straight. His family ran a pharmacy since he was a child, so he was very sensitive to diseases. What are the symptoms? They all have a high fever, pus, and blood. Hu Laojin was a little sad. They're all good young people. Are they a family? No. One in the north and one in the south. I don't know them. Although he couldn't tell what it was, There were two similar cases of this kind of illness, which meant that it was possible to be contagious. Jiang Wang asked, "Where are they?" Buried. It was unrealistic to expect this little old man to explain the illness clearly. Jiang Wang straightforwardly asked, "What do they have in common?" Hu Laojin was a little confused. "What do they have in common?" Xiao Xiao interrupted. "Where have they been recently?" They went to the city. For the people of this land, entering the city naturally meant going to Jia City. Jiang Wang immediately stood up and said, "I'm going to Jia City right now." First, he had to figure out whether the illness came from Jia City. Second, that Shi Zichu came from the East King Valley and was an expert in medicine. Moreover, as a member of the Shi family, it was only right for him to contribute to the people of Jia City. "Xiao Xiao, you stay here with Hu Laojin and isolate everyone who came in contact with the deceased. If there are any obstacles, let your big sister Zhu take care of it for you." Xiao Xiao was better at handling specific matters. Although Zhu Biqiong was an exceptional cultivator, she couldn't compare to Xiao Xiao in the ways of the world. When she was young, she had heard her father talk about many terrifying cases. She had also seen many families ruined by serious illnesses. She knew that diseases were fiercer than tigers. In Qingyang town, there were tens of thousands of people in the town and village. Jiang Wang didn't dare to be negligent. He immediately arranged matters and went to Jia City alone. Recently, Shi Zichu's eyelids were twitching violently. Early on, when he was setting up the home mine, he felt that his family was hiding something from him. However, since his father didn't say anything, he didn't ask. After all, Shi Munin was the lord of Jia City. He was the future of the Shi family. That was true. However, if he tried to control the present, he would be overstepping his authority. This was also the reason why advisor Liu had been purposely keeping a distance from him. The streets were crowded with horses and carriages, bustling with noise and prosperity. The Shi family was doing well in Jia City. However, those who had long-term ambitions wouldn't allow themselves to be too eager for quick success. Rest the people and build up their reputation. Shi Zichu was willing to take out a large sum of compensation to mend his relationship with the Zhonggenjia because of this reason. After changing his makeup and wrapping himself in a large robe, Shi Zichu wandered around his family city. With his reputation in the city, if he didn't do this, he wouldn't be able to go out. The failure at the Hu mine was a blow to his head, smashing his arrogance to pieces. He realized that not only Jiang Wang, even Hu Xiaoming, who he had always suppressed, might not lose to him. He had suppressed Hu Xiaoming with the help of the Shi family, and Jiang Wang had draped the Zhonggenjia's influence over his body like a coat, never leaving. However, compared to the failure of the treasure auction, what he couldn't accept the most was his father's words. "You have disappointed me." Outsiders didn't know, but he remembered that he grew up under criticism and attacks. Since he was young, he had never received a word of praise from his father. Even though he studied politics, cultivated hard, and studied medicine, he strived to be the best in everything. Even though, with a combination of medicinal fragrance and propaganda, all the women of the right age in Jia City flocked to him, not to mention the flattery of his subordinates. However, he never received his father's approval. He was always disappointed. Now that he was in the soaring dragon realm, he was confident that he could surpass his father in 5 years and become an inner palace official. Perhaps only then would his father be satisfied. "You have disappointed me." However, this sentence still lingered in his ears. It was as if a nail had nailed all of his light and airy pride to death. Chapter 248. Unlike the Hu clan's exploitation of Qingyang town, the Shi clan had always been generous to the people of Jia City. Their cruel side was only shown to those who had the chance to threaten the Shi clan's position. This was also one of the reasons why the Shi clan's father and son were loved and respected. As for the Hu clan, even Hu Xiaoming's own uncle didn't receive much leniency and was subservient in front of Hu Xiaoming. This was because before successfully joining the fishing tower, Hu Xiaoming wouldn't have enough resources to support his cultivation. granary knew etiquette, and this was also the case in the cultivation world. Of course, Shizichu had feelings for the city he was currently in. All those years of love, respect, and closeness, even iron and stone would be warmed by it. So when he saw a dying patient casually thrown onto a cart at the back door of a clinic and piled up with several corpses, he was a little angry, especially since the ones who did this were the soldiers of the city guards. They were almost equivalent to the Shi clan's private soldiers. To a certain extent, they also represented him. A straw mat covered the corpses. The wheels of the car rolled forward. Everything seemed sloppy, perfunctory, and absurd. "Move!" the young soldier coldly shouted. At that time, Shizichu happened to pass by and stopped at the entrance of the alley. He happened to block their path. "What are you doing?" Shizichu asked. This wasn't a pleasant job. No one was willing to do this kind of thing, so the two soldiers pushing the cart were in a bad mood. "Drag him to the mass grave. If you dare cause trouble again, we'll bury you too," one of them said. "This person isn't dead yet." Shizichu took a step forward and lifted the straw mat. "You're courting death." The two city guards immediately drew their swords, but their swords were pushed back. Shizichu stared at the disfigured face at the top of the cart, and his heart was in turmoil. Although this person wasn't dead, there was no cure, because he was infected with the plague. Even if the East King Valley cultivated both medicine and poison and didn't mind killing people, research on the plague was clearly forbidden. Even if the plague could be developed into countless powerful killing techniques, this was a completely predictable direction, but no one dared to openly try it. Regardless of whether it would harm the harmony of the world, if it was exposed, the world would punish it. Even the East King Valley would not be able to bear the consequences. What shocked Shizichu was that this person, as well as the corpses beneath him, were all infected. They were simply wrapped in straw mats and sent to the mass grave. If the escorting soldiers were lazy and didn't even bury the bodies, the consequences would be, regardless of whether it was his identity as a cultivator of the East King Valley or as the young master of the Shi clan, he was completely unaware of such a huge matter. The dying patient looked hopelessly into Shizichu's eyes. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out of it. Shizichu spread his fingers, and a flower of devourer drilled out of the ground and swallowed all the corpses on the trailer, including the person who hadn't completely turned into a corpse. "Do you know what illness this is?" He turned his head and asked the soldiers sorrowfully. "Who are you?" one of the soldiers asked. In the face of an expert who displayed extraordinary strength, he still maintained the courage of a warrior. These soldiers were the result of the Shi family's hard work. Shizichu should be proud, but at this moment, he wasn't in the mood. He wiped his face and returned to his original appearance. "It's me." The two soldiers looked at each other in confusion. Then they reported, "Young master, I don't know either. Mr. Liu only passed down the order that anyone with this illness should be sent to the mass grave in the northern suburbs and be buried together." "How long has this been going on?" "I really don't know. I was transferred here the day before yesterday to take care of the corpses in the nearby streets, mainly this clinic." The other soldier interrupted. "According to the rumors in the army, it started in April, but now it seems to be increasing." Shizichu's expression turned ugly, and he left without saying a word. When Jiang Wang returned to Jia City, nothing seemed to have changed. The gatekeepers were still unwilling to pay a single coin less than the entrance fee. Of course, they didn't dare to charge more. The streets were still bustling with people, and it was a scene of peace and contentment. Jiang Wang didn't have a good impression of the Shi clan, but he didn't have much enmity either. The Shi family's compensation was more than enough to show their sincerity. In the end, a soaring dragon realm elder died for nothing, but they didn't lose their composure. It could be said that they had the magnanimity of an aristocratic family. If the Shi clan didn't plan to oppose him in the future, he didn't plan to have a grudge with the Shi clan. What he wanted to do was to unify the Zhenggenjia's businesses in the Yang country and increase profits, so as to provide an endless supply of resources for Chenggongsheng. It was impossible to achieve this just by walking and killing along the way. He didn't plan to go to the mayor's mansion. He still remembered the small courtyard where Shizichu invited him to meet last time. So he prepared to go there to wait for Shizichu. Before that, he wanted to go to the big clinics in Jia City to check out the situation. If the two people who died in Xinjiang town were really infected, then there should be similar cases in a city as big as Jia City. And with the quality of the doctors in the big cities, maybe the patients who could only wait for death in Xinjiang town could be cured in Jia City. With Shi Zichu, a transcendent cultivator from the East King Valley, Jiang Wang was very confident in the doctors in Jia City. While walking on the road, he heard a commotion. Looking from afar, it was a group of armored soldiers who were escorting a prisoner's carriage. They were heading towards them. The prisoner carriage was like a rat crossing the street. Everyone wanted to beat it up. Not to mention, there was a tall and strong man reading out the person's crime loudly. There's a doctor, surnamed Sun, named Ping. Audacious dog, deceiving people with lies. Seeking profit, exaggerating the illness. Within the street, everyone is in danger. Within the room, everyone is anxious. The prisoner carriage is passing through the city, beheaded at the south gate. Displayed in front of the public, as a warning to others. It was written clearly and shouted loudly. Everyone heard it clearly. This young doctor named Ping, in order to earn some money, purposely exaggerated the patient's illness, causing panic among the people, and then profiting from it. Damn it! A rotten egg smashed into the prisoner carriage with a pah sound. The black and yellow egg liquid flowed down the criminal Ping's black hair. This sound was like a war drum, instantly triggering the charge and the war. Hands reached out from the crowd one by one, like a relay, and continued with the justice. Countless rotten cabbages and rotten eggs fell into the prisoner carriage like rain. The people's faces and ears were red, filled with righteous indignation. This black-hearted thing, he only knows how to take our money. He's so bad at such a young age. What can he do in the future? He still dares to spread rumors. He's really a beast in human face. In the end, all the voices of justice converged into a flood. They converged into a voice that was shouting, "Kill him! Kill him! Kill him!" Jiang Wang stood outside the crowd, looking at the prisoner carriage. The criminal named Ping in the prisoner carriage was wearing prison clothes, handcuffs, and chains. He didn't cry out for justice, nor did he try to defend himself. He didn't even dodge the filth that fell on his body. But in his young eyes, there were tears flowing. Chapter 249. Shizichu hurried back to the mayor's residence. The mayor's residence was the Shi residence. It was divided into the front residence and the back residence. The front residence was the office, while Shi Munin's family lived in the back residence. The Shi family's land was not in Jia City, but in the suburbs. There were many people there, like a town. Jia City was said to have 8 towns under its rule, but if the Shi family's land was included, it should be 9 towns. Stepping into the side hall of the front residence, Advisor Liu was in front of a desk, writing something with a brush. Once he saw him, Shizichu gritted his teeth and said, "Advisor Liu." "Oh, it's you, sir." Advisor Liu looked up at him, then lowered his head again. "The mayor has gone out. Who knows when he'll be back? Please wait for him in the back residence." Shizichu walked in front of him and pressed down on the paper he was writing on. "No, I'm looking for you." Advisor Liu thought for a moment, then placed the brush on the inkstone and looked up at Shizichu. "Sir, what's the matter? Let me ask you, do you know what's happening in the city?" Advisor Liu stood up, walked to the door, and closed it, then turned to look at Shizichu. You know, Shizichu felt that all his cultivation in East King Valley had been wasted. He said impatiently, "I'm asking you if you know." "Of course I know," said Advisor Liu. "Very well. Then prepare to ask for my father's forgiveness." Shizichu was furious and was about to attack. The city lord went out personally for this matter. Advisor Liu continued. Shizichu stopped, bewildered. "My father knows about it too." Advisor Liu glanced at him indifferently. "Otherwise, how do you think I can mobilize the city guards?" Shizichu was outraged. The pig-bone-faced man was tormenting the people, but he could still suppress his killing intent and lure him to attack Jiang Wang first, because he was already prepared to kill him afterwards. There was nothing wrong with letting him make the best use of everything before he died. However, he could not understand Shi Munin and Advisor Lu's reaction to the plague. You knew it was a plague, but you didn't respond in time. This is dereliction of duty. It's poison. It's the murder of hundreds of thousands of people. Looking at Advisor Lu's calm face, he wished he could kill him with one palm. It must be you, you traitor, who deceived my father. What do you want to do? At this moment, the door was pushed open. In the entire Jia city, there was only one person who could barge in while Shi Zichu and Lu Gan were talking behind closed doors. It was the chairman of Jia City, Munan. Father. Shi Zichu suddenly turned around, his voice agitated. Do you know how dangerous the plague is? Do you know what will happen if it erupts? Shi Munin looked at him quietly and waited until he calmed down before asking. Do you know why I'm hiding this from you? Why? Because of your useless and stupid appearance. While they were talking, Advisor Lu quietly left and closed the door behind him. It showed that he had a sense of propriety as a private advisor. Shi Zichu was shocked and angry. He didn't understand why he was so useless now. There are indeed people who have contracted the plague. What do you want to do? Shi Munin asked his son. Announce it to the world? Let the hundreds of thousands of people in the city be in a state of panic? Throw the world into chaos. Then it will give the imperial court an excuse to sweep our Shi family aside like a piece of trash and regain control of Jia City. What's going on in your head? That your father is going to murder you? Jia City has been the fief of the Shi family for generations. The people of Jia City are the foundation of the Shi family. My people, I'm going to murder them? Shi Munin swept away the tiredness in his eyes and said angrily to Shi Zichu, we have indeed sealed off the news, but not the people. But this is for the sake of the big picture. All the corpses that died from the plague have been dealt with in a fixed location. All the infected people have been locked in their rooms. We've already done our best. Otherwise, why do you think I'm still running around outside at this time? Do you think I don't care about them? But Shi Zichu was silent for a long time before replying. The plague is still spreading, isn't it? This is only temporary. Shi Munin couldn't help but become irritable. I should have known that the White-Bone sect was up to no good. That pig-faced person came all the way to Jia City, definitely not just to eat a few people. This plague is definitely a scheme of the White-Bone sect. We should announce this to the people and overcome this difficult time together. The plague is spreading, Father. The people are ignorant. Ignorance is a kind of happiness. Moreover, what can they do against the White-Bone sect? The most important thing now is to find out the White-Bone sect's intentions. Find out who they are hiding. We can ask for help from the imperial court to deal with the White-Bone sect demons, but we have to settle the people of Jia City ourselves. Shi Zichu looked at his father and felt that he was a stranger for the first time. So, your solution is to let them wait for death? Shi Munin looked at his son and finally couldn't help but sigh. My son, this is why I didn't want you to know about this. You've been cultivating in the East King Valley, healing people and poisoning people. The East King Valley cultivates both medicine and poison. After all, medicine is the main focus. When it comes to the patients, your cultivation makes it impossible for you to stay out of it. But you're the future head of the Shi family. You have to consider the interests of the Shi family first. I don't want you to make such a choice. Shi Zichu closed his eyes in pain. But it's time to make a choice, isn't it? Our strategy of stabilizing the situation can't be changed, but since you know about the plague, you can help our doctors with treatment and see if there's any way to prevent it. As long as the strategy doesn't change and the people don't panic, all the doctors in the city will be at your disposal. You can take full responsibility for this. In all the medical records I've read, the first way to stop the plague from spreading is to isolate the inside and outside and prohibit people from traveling. Then, we have to eliminate it one by one. There's no other way. You've cultivated for so many years. Use your extraordinary power to solve it. Shi Munin said in an unquestionable tone. No matter what, The Shi family's 5 generations of business can't be destroyed by our hands. Otherwise, we won't have the face to see our ancestors in 100 years. These words hit Shi Zichu. The hundreds of years of history of the family was like a heavy mountain, pressing down on him until he couldn't make a comeback. This time, he didn't stay silent for too long. Using the murder case created by the pig-faced man as an excuse, impose a curfew of 2 months. 1.5 months at most, any more, and there'll be panic. From now on, gather as much extraordinary power as we can. Under my command, ordinary people won't be able to resist the plague. Apart from the necessary guards, the rest are at your disposal. Shimyunin thought for a while and added, except for Advisor Liu, all the infected corpses have to be burned together. You can decide on this yourself. After a moment of silence, seeing that Shi Zichu didn't continue, Shimyunin waved his hand and said, "Go." Chapter 250. Jiang Wang went against the flow of people who crowded around the prisoner carriage towards the south gate. He didn't know the cause and effect, nor did he have a deep understanding of the fairness of the Jia city government. Although public opinion was turbulent, public opinion was something that could be easily manipulated. It wouldn't become the basis for his judgment. The only thing he could see was that the young doctor named Sun Ping had his tongue cut off. This wasn't an appropriate thing to do, especially when he needed to be watched. It didn't matter if it was a punishment or not. He couldn't speak. He couldn't explain in front of everyone. People could only hear one voice, the letter of confession that kept repeating. Thus, there was only one unified public opinion. Just based on this point, Jiang Wang didn't want to go along with it. He went against the flow of people. It seemed to be human nature to watch a commotion, not just in Jia City. A prisoner carriage passing through the city, a prisoner waiting to be beheaded, attracted a large crowd of people. After passing through the crowd, the streets became much more spacious. Jiang Wang didn't have the interest to stroll around, and quickly found the nearest clinic. To his surprise, the clinic was very deserted. An apprentice was occasionally pounding medicine, and an old doctor was lazily curled up on a reclining chair. There wasn't a single patient in the clinic. Jiang Wang walked in for a long time, but no one greeted him. He didn't say anything, and silently went to the second clinic. The situation in the second clinic was more or less the same. If it were someone else, they probably wouldn't think there was a problem. The people in this city were very healthy, so no one was sick. But in Jiang Wang's eyes, it just showed that there was a big problem. With his family's experience in opening a medicine store, there would never be a lack of people in the clinic and medicine store. Hunger and disease were problems that humans had been fighting for since the beginning of history. When transcendence reached a certain level, they could ignore most diseases and didn't even need to eat. But not everyone could walk the path of transcendence. Are you seeing a doctor? Were you feeling unwell? The people in the second clinic greeted him, but Jiang Wang directly left. There was no need to look anymore. Following the location in his memory, he walked to the small courtyard where he met Shi Zichu. After knocking on the door, as expected, Shi Zichu was in the courtyard. This time, Jiang Wang did not hide his tracks. It would be strange if Shi Zichu did not discover him. When they met again this time, he was far from his previous state. Although he tried his best to look confident, traces of stress could still be seen between his eyebrows. "What brings you here, envoy?" Shi Zichu did not seem to have any intention of welcoming him in as he stood at the entrance of the courtyard and asked. "Someone in town is sick," Jiang Wang said. "Don't tell me you think that just because I'm from the East King Valley that I should treat patients? And that person is just an ordinary citizen of Qingyang Town? I thought that as the young master of the Shi clan and a cultivator of the East King Valley, you would be duty-bound to help. What terrible disease." "I don't know," Jiang Wang said honestly, "but there were 2 people in Qingyang Town who died of the same disease. Before they got sick, they both came to Jia City. I think you should be on your guard." "What symptoms?" "High fever and pus." "Where's the corpse?" "Bury him. I've already taken care of the funeral. What else do you want me to be on my guard for?" "You're a disciple of the East King Valley. What disease do you think it is?" Jiang Wang asked. The two symptoms you mentioned correspond to at least 100 different diseases. Some are very mild, some are very terrible. How do you want me to answer? What's the most terrible situation? Seeing the Shizichu did not speak, Jiang Wang continued. Extraordinary cultivators also have to bear extraordinary responsibilities. This matter concerns the safety of too many people. We should prepare for the worst. For this, I'm willing to bury the hatchet with you. The compensation that the Shi clan previously promised to Zheng Genjia can be halved. In Shi Zichu's view, whether it was Jiang Wang or Zheng Genjia, they were just passers-by in Jia City. The Shi clan was the unchanging master of this place. He was very surprised by Jiang Wang's sincerity. The worst situation is nothing more than a plague, Shi Zichu said, but that shouldn't be the case. I'll mobilize the extraordinary power of this city to investigate the cause of this matter. Currently, it seems to be related to the white-bone sect's white-bone face who came to Jia City. Unfortunately, you didn't leave anyone alive. Related to the white-bone sect? The white-bone sect is crazy. They're capable of doing anything. Brother Shi, you must be careful. Of course I know. When I was entering the city, there was a prisoner carriage passing by. Jiang Wang said thoughtfully, that was a doctor called Sun Ping. His tongue was cut off, so he couldn't speak. I heard that he was spreading rumors. What kind of rumors did he say? Jia City has its own government. I can't care about everything. However, cutting off one's tongue for spreading rumors is a very normal punishment. Jiang Wang nodded and said no more. In any case, the East King Valley was the authority when it came to medicine. He also knew the significance of Jia City to the Shi clan. The Shi clan should be more concerned about the safety of Jia City's citizens than he was. There was almost no way they would ignore the danger. He planned to take root in Qingyang town and use it as his base of operations. Therefore, he wanted to improve his relationship with the Shi clan. In the future, when he developed, he might have to compete with the Shi clan. However, for now, it was better to keep a low profile. When he returned to Qingyang town, Jiang Wang immediately ordered Hu Laojian to put the town under martial law. He called out all the mortal guards from the mine and arranged them with the town's constables to patrol the town. He would keep the town under martial law until he felt it was safe, no matter what strategy or attitude Jia City had. Shizichu said that the worst-case scenario was an epidemic, so Jiang Wang treated it as an epidemic. During this period, all kinds of losses such as food and horses would be borne by the town and Jiang Wang himself. Jiang Wang could bear these losses, or rather, he was willing to bear them. The Zheng Genjia's industries in the Yang country were all similar to the Hu family's mine. They supported local candidates and recruited local transcendents. Every year or month, they only looked at the profits and nothing else. This saved them time and effort and didn't affect their income. However, the problem was that they lacked in-depth control. The Zheng Genjia's previous response to this was to tightly control the distribution of transcendence resources. Those who handled local affairs could be locals, but those who distributed transcendence resources had to be from the Chongqing clan. It had to be said that this idea was very good. However, when it was put into practice, the results weren't that good. The Hu family's mine was a classic example. Normally, they were all lovey-dovey and had no problem paying tribute regularly. However, once a treasure appeared and the Hu family became disloyal, they had countless ways to drive the Zheng Genjia away unilaterally. Of course, the Zheng Genjia had the ability to make anyone who betrayed them regret, but the losses had already happened. In order to integrate all these industries and make them Cheng Gengsheng's logistics warehouse, the previous model definitely wouldn't work. Killing the Hu family's father and son like Jiang Wang and reaching a tacit agreement with a local controller, the Shi clan, was one way. However, it was impossible to kill all the way. He wasn't in a hurry to quickly take over all the Zheng Genjia's businesses in the Yang country. Instead, he planned to build a foundation with Qingyang town as the center and then spread out. This way, he could achieve twice the result with half the effort. Currently in the mine, there were Zhu Biqiang, Xiang Qian, and Zhang Hai who had transcendence. There were Dugu Xiao and Hu Laojin who dealt with the mundane matters. Jiang Wang was able to devote himself to cultivation. During this period, he didn't do anything other than replying to an N and Yi Qingyu's letters. This situation lasted until 7 days later. That was in the year 3918 of the Tao calendar, the 54th year of the Yuan phone calendar, the 4th of June. P.S. Looking for recommendation tickets, monthly tickets, and all kinds of tickets. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.